Successful business owners for insight into what makes both them and their business run. Tune in every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. on 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDON, or podcasts on iTunes.
Staples has the organizational supplies you need for the new year, like planners, folders, calendars, and more. There's a whole lot in store at Staples.
Hi, Doug Basham here. Join me Saturday afternoons from 2 to 4, and I'll tell you what your conservative, corporate-controlled, right-wing propaganda hate media isn't. You're welcome. That's Saturday afternoons, 2 to 4. Be there.
If you need to sell your house,
talk to Aaron Taylor.
You want to sell it fast and get the most cash, talk to Aaron Taylor,
the real estate guy.
Aaron Taylor here, your number one real estate guy. 2019 was an incredible year, and 2020 will be even better. We have designed a 3-step program to get our sellers the most money possible. Number 1, sellers that want a cash offer, we will provide you several offers from all iBuyer companies, Zillow, OfferPad, Opendoor, and all local investors. Number 2, we will pay and do all repairs with our crew and list your property to get you the highest price. Number 3, for our traditional sellers, we will provide our 25 years of experience along with our exceptional marketing campaign, all to get you the most money possible. And to top it all off, we give a cash advance within 24 hours if needed for all sellers. Call 702-310-6683. That's 702-310-MOVE. eXp Realty, call for details.
talk to Aaron Taylor,
The real estate guy.
101.5 FM, 720 AM, the talk of Las Vegas. The opinions of the hosts on KDWN are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group. Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, what's up, Vegas? Good morning. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us on a Tuesday. I cannot believe we are less than, well, definitely less than 24 hours away. About 15, 14 hours away. I'm not very good at math from 2020, as you can tell. Not very good with addition and subtraction. But, yeah, we're almost there, folks. And got a great show lined up for you today. A lot of great topics to talk about. Some difficult topics to talk about as well. This is going to be a fun interview coming up later on in the show. He is known as the Violator, part of the Black Hole, one of the most famous Raiders and NFL fans of all time. He's going to tell us why he does not plan on continuing supporting the Raiders as they move to Las Vegas. He's going to be joining us in hour number 3. Also, in the world of sports handicapping and sports betting, it's usually a man's occupation, right? Well, not in this case. Woman by the name of MintyBets works for Wager Talk, professional sports handicapper. She's going to be joining us in hour number 3. Women are now, I'm not going to say taking over, but many women are starting to get into this industry. I think it's great. So we'll talk to her coming up in hour number 3. Hour number 2, it's the Minister, Stretch Sanders. It is Tuesday, and boy, do I have a lot to get to with him. He made some very controversial statements last week saying that if you are an African-American, it is impossible for you to be racist. We're going to challenge him a little bit more on those topics and much, much more coming up in hour number 2. But, I want to start off with something that I think needs to be addressed and talked about. And we're going to get to the Donald Trump stuff, the New York Times article, the discussion or the phone call he had with Vladimir Putin, which was at the very least concerning. We'll get to that here in just a little bit. But boy, have there been a lot of hate crimes and hate attacks, particularly towards the Jewish community. Now, I know we had a guy walk into a church wanting to kill innocent people. But of course, as you know, of this Hanukkah stabbing where the suspect, before this stabbing, searched stuff on his computer, like why did Adolf Hitler hate the Jews? This was more than a month before he was charged with basically trying to execute Jewish people with a machete. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And let me just explain this. This is just in New York alone in the last week. Attacks against Jewish people, anti-Semitism. In my lifetime, I can't recall this happening in this country, certainly not to this magnitude. And this is just in New York alone, right? December 23rd, an elderly man was assaulted by a man using anti-Semitic slurs. A man and children were assaulted in a residential building because they were Jews. On December 24th, a drink was thrown at a man after yelling anti-Semitic slurs, and another man later punched another guy because he was Jewish. On December 25th, a man wearing a traditional religious clothing was punched in the face. This, by the way, again, this is all in New York. December 26th, a woman was struck with a bag and assaulted because of her being Jewish. On December 27th, 3 women were slapped in the face because they're Jews. There was a shooting threat on December 27th in New York at the Chabad Lubavitch World Headquarters. On December 28th, multiple stabbings, of course, in this rabbi's home that we've been talking about. What is going on? And now we have this, this Hebrew Israelites. Black Hebrew Israelites, a movement that officials say the suspect in this stabbing also in New Jersey, the shooting expressed interest in this Black Hebrew Israelite situation.
This is the same group where that Covington situation with Sandman, he was confronting a member of the Black Hebrew Israelites.
Yes, correct. So this has been going on for quite some time. I want to know how this group started, where it's going. This is a dangerous group, just like we talk about white supremacists. Well, now we have Hebrew Israelite supremacists, I guess, anti-Semitic supremacists, so to speak. Not to say that a white supremacist is not anti-Jew as well, because they are. But when I look at this,
and from what I understand, the premise of their we'll call it so-called supremacy is that they feel that they are the quote-unquote chosen ones.
Yeah, and it's really disgusting because this is not just a Hebrew Israelite movement. I mean, there's anti-Semitism all over this country right now. I don't understand why. Did you hear about this story about these West Virginia cadets? In this photo, they were seen giving a Nazi salute. All of them giving a Nazi salute. 3 staff members at the training academy will be fired. Everybody in that photo is going to be fired. West Virginia Governor Jim Justice announced. The image was discovered earlier this month, shows members of this West Virginia Division of Corrections and Rehabilitation basic training class, 18 of them with one arm raised. The text above reads, "Hail Bird," in a reference to a training instructor for the class. I mean, you want to talk about utterly disgusting behavior. And now we're seeing it publicly. I mean, I always knew there were going to be idiots out there that are going to be anti-Semitic, just like there's ignorant people out there that are racist. But it seems like we're seeing these views more publicly now than ever before. I don't know the reason why for that. I don't know why. But let's talk a little bit more about this stabbing that took place inside a rabbi's home. I mean, it's unbelievable. This is a witness who described escaping this December 28th stabbing attack inside this rabbi's home in Muncie, New York, that left 5 people wounded.
There was a in between, so most people were there. Just a big, huge guy came in with a sword and axe. I don't know what it was. Yeah, I don't know exactly what it was. And I didn't see it clearly. I was sitting at the end of the corner by the window over there. And I just saw him start to hit whoever he could.
What did you do?
I started immediately to run out the back door. Ran into the kitchen, ran out the porch, and there was a lot of women and children. They all ran out, and I came in. When I was outside, I thought that probably he will do the same because I saw his sword. I was sure he's gonna kill everyone in this.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what he certainly tried to do. Imagine if you're sitting in your home, and somebody enters your home with a machete, and it's not someone that wants to rob you. It's not someone that wants to take your money or your belongings. That would be bad enough. But it's somebody that wants to kill you with a machete, all because of your religion. Make no mistake about it. That's what happened here. So New York Governor Andrew Cuomo spoke outside of the home of this Hasidic rabbi and calling this certainly an act of terrorism. Here he is.
At the end of the day, it's not just about words, it's about action. And we have seen enough in New York. This is violence. Spurred by hate. It is mass violence, and I consider this an act of domestic terrorism. Let's call it what it is. These people are domestic terrorists, and the law should reflect that, and they should be punished as if it was an act of terrorism.
Amen. I couldn't agree with him more. Now, here's where I have a problem. This man who walked in with a machete, his attorney's name is Michael Sussman. Amazing, because I would imagine the last name Sussman, his attorney, sounds to me like his attorney's Jewish, which makes his comments even worse here. So he's talking at a news conference yesterday about some of the anti-Semitic literature and the writings of this nut job. Have a listen to this.
We were able this morning to go to the home, Reverend Page and I, and review scores of papers which frankly show the ramblings of a disturbed individual, but there is no suggestion in any of those ramblings and pages of writing of an anti-Semitic motive, of any anti-Semitism.
Okay, this guy is a complete idiot. This is where I have a huge problem with attorneys. I know it's his job to defend his client. How can you say this isn't anti-Semitic? They looked in some of these writings. The FBI is saying he's horrible anti-Semitic remarks. He looked up, why did Adolf Hitler hate the Jews? How can you tell me this is not an anti-Semitic situation? This attorney is a buffoon.
Especially if he was trying to justify why he should commit these crimes by looking up something like, why did Adolf Hitler hit the Jews?
Exactly.
And that really actually, it makes attorneys look very, very bad.
It makes this guy look like a complete moron.
Not just him, but attorneys in general. The fact that he is most likely Jewish and he is going out of his way to try to spin this, despite the fact that
it gets worse though.
That he's totally he knows 100% that it is anti-Semitism.
It gets worse though. Listen to this. This is the attorney going on saying that he does not believe that his client, I guess you could call it a client, he does not believe that it was specifically targeting Jewish people. Have a listen to this.
I spent about 35 minutes speaking with Grafton Thomas this morning, and while obviously I can't disclose the detail of that conversation, I can tell you that I heard nothing in that conversation that confirmed in any way, shape, or manner that he's a domestic terrorist, that he intentionally targeted this in that sense.
Okay, this guy should be ashamed of himself. I understand that this attorney is not the one that committed the crime with the machete, but when you are an attorney, you don't have to lie to defend your client. This attorney knows damn well that his client absolutely 100% singled out Jewish people. That is anti-Semitic. That is the definition of a hate crime, period.
Not only that, did the rabbi live in a predominantly Jewish neighborhood? I'm sure he did.
Yes.
So he walks into a predominantly Jewish neighborhood. That proves right there that he was targeting Jewish people.
This guy went out of his way, drove a while, went into this rabbi's home, specifically targeting Jewish people. How more specific? This is the definition of a hate crime. If this isn't a hate crime, I don't know what is, and this attorney should be ashamed of himself. It is shameful. We need to call out this type of garbage. If somebody, now listen, if you go in there with a machete and you murder somebody, it's murder. But if you go in there and murder somebody with the action or the way of thinking that you're doing it just for what somebody looks like, or for just for somebody's sexuality, or just because of somebody's religion, that is what a hate crime is. And for this attorney to stand up there yesterday and speak in front of the media and say there's no evidence to suggest, in his opinion, that he targeted Jewish people, that he's just mentally ill. Well, obviously he's mentally ill. For God's sakes, anybody that wants to kill somebody innocent because of their religion is mentally ill. The number to call is 702-257-5396. Again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, I'll open up the phone line. 702-257-5396. I don't care how Looney Tunes this guy is. I don't care how much of a nut job he is. This is a hate crime. It's no different than if you went into a gay bar and targeted people that are homosexuals. It's no different than if you go into a church and you hate Christians and you go in there, you want to kill a bunch of good Christians. It's the same thing. He went into the rabbi's home. He had literature. What more do you want? What more proof do you want that this is a hate crime? It drives me freaking nuts. Attorneys like Michael Sussman are not helping this situation any. In fact, they're making it worse because it's important for all of us to call out what this is. Is he a madman? Yes. Is he a nut job? Yes. Is he a murderer? Yes. This is anti-Semitism at its worst, and it's happening right here in our backyard. It's happening here in this country. And it comes on the realm. It's not just, anti-Semitism. How about this nut job, Keith Kinman, who walks into a church, kills a man by the name of Tony Wallace, and also injures a security guard. Yes, I am happy that there are people that had guns in that church that executed this son of a bitch. Yes, I'm happy. Don't you tell me that white supremacy doesn't exist here. Don't you tell me that there aren't people acting on their anti-Semitic ways. It's happening. I just read you a number of things that are happening on a daily basis just in New York alone when it comes to anti-Semitism and hate crimes. And I'm sorry, Mr. President, but getting up there in a speech and just saying a couple sentences about how it will not be tolerated is not enough. It's not enough. I'm not blaming the president for any of this, but we need to do something about this. As I say, we need to do something about the gun violence in this country. We need to do something about the rise of hate crimes. In 2018, hate crime violence hit a 16-year high. It's dipped a little bit, but the violence is still up there. This is a problem. It's not going away. It needs to be addressed by the president more than just a few sentences at a campaign rally. Both Republicans and Democrats need to do something about this now. Action needs to be taken. Throw the book at these bastards. Put them in jail for the rest of their lives, as far as I'm concerned. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Why don't we start with Dwayne? Dwayne, you are first up on the Vegas take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Dwayne?
I think we lost Dwayne. 702-257-5396. That sounded a little bit like the Violator, who we're going to get in hour number 3. Let's go to Brady. Brady, thanks for calling into the Vegas take. What's going on?
Hey, Brady.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Hey, I wanted to bring up that guy that chopped in people up, the Jewish people in New York. There's another example of what happens when Cuomo takes the guns away from the average citizen. Now you're stuck in a problem where somebody can walk in your house with a knife and chop your family up, and you can't even shoot them. So how good is that, Brian? What are you going to do when somebody comes in?
So you're
to the
telling
radio
me,
station with a machete?
okay, well,
What are you gonna do?
let me respond. First of all, you're telling me that you cannot defend yourself in your home with a weapon in the state of New York? Is that what you're telling me?
You can't have handguns in New York.
That's not what I asked you. Can you not defend yourself in New York with any type of weapon if you've never committed a felony and you're legally allowed to purchase a gun?
I don't think guns are allowed in New York City, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, well, guess what? This didn't happen in New York City. So why don't you get your facts right first before you call in? This didn't happen in New York City, number one. Number two, we're not talking about gun control because this is not a gun control issue. We're talking about anti-Semitism. We're talking about hate crimes that don't just occur in New York City. They occur throughout the country. I just happen to name some of the incidents that took place in New York just in the span of a week. I'm talking about specifically hate crimes and why crime is on the rise, why hate crimes and violence.
So I'm talking about hate crimes, and after the fact, why aren't these Jewish people arming themselves? Are they stupid? Are they wimpy? Or what's their problem?
So let me get this right. You called into the show. You've called Jewish people wimpy, but yet you haven't addressed the people that are actually committing the hate crimes. Do I have your position correct,
And you
Brady?
also said, what are we going to do when someone comes into the studio with a machete, if I'm not mistaken?
What are you going to do? Yeah, there's a classic example.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do right now, Brady. I'm going to hang up on a racist, prejudiced, anti-Semitic idiot like you. That's what I'm going to do. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Again, that number 257-5396. Let's go to Richard. Richard, thank you for calling in. What's on your mind?
What's up, Richard?
Yeah, I think a lot of the major problems we have with anti-Semitism in our country are from Islamo-supremacists, from very wealthy, powerful Islamo-supremacists, such as those in Saudi Arabia or Qatar, and just the oil-producing nations.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to culturally transform our nation, as and all nations, frankly.
Yeah.
And many of them are virulent anti-Semites.
Oh, no question. I mean, I agree with you. There's absolutely no question about that. But Richard, I've always known that, there are anti-Semitic people in this country, but it just appears to me that people are now acting out on those beliefs more than ever before. I mean, at least it appears that way to me. Am I wrong in thinking that?
Certainly so. Certainly so. The solution is we have to stop being so politically correct with those who are supremacists.
Right.
So white supremacists are problematic, but all supremacists are problematic.
No, I agree.
And they need to all be treated equally.
Richard, I could not agree with
That's
you more.
100% true.
Yeah, I appreciate the call, Richard. Thank you very much.
And one of the things is now that we've gone over this 1,000 times, but with social media And with every single thing that happens, every single negative thing that happens in the United States, or even internationally, I mean, it's right in your face 24/7. And that was not the case 20, 30, 15, 10 years ago. And so it's possible that these crimes have been happening at just as high of rates for the last 20 or 30 years. And I'll have to look at the actual data on that. But right now, because of the way that the media is, the mass media is projected with the phones,
I can tell you right now, I gave out a stat. Hate crime violence hit a 16-year high last year. So things are not moving in the right direction. Let's put it that way. 257-5396. Let's go to Len. Len, you're next on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey,
What's
how
up,
you
Len?
doing?
Good.
Go ahead, Len.
Yes, Michael Sussman is a douche. He's been doing this for 20 and 25 years.
Yeah.
And he only takes cases against the Jewish community.
Len, let me just give people, just so people are just tuning in, Len is talking about the attorney who is representing the man with the machete who walked into this rabbi's home. Len, I agree with you, and I think that attorneys that make poor excuses, I don't understand this. How can you say that this guy who walks into a rabbi's home with a machete, the FBI is saying that he had all these anti-Semitic writings, how can you say he wasn't targeting Jewish people? I cannot believe he said that, Len.
Okay, I lived in Rockland County where Muncie is, and it's a very large Jewish community, and Michael Sussman has taken all the cases against the Jewish community.
Isn't he Jewish himself?
Zoning cases.
He's Jewish himself, isn't he?
He is, but he doesn't. How do you think they got him in 20 minutes after this event?
No, that's true. You're right. The question, Len, is why? I mean, this attorney needs to be called out. I completely agree with you. In my opinion, he is disgusting, utterly disgusting. Len, I appreciate...
This attorney is making a lot of money representing people against the Jews, and he's happy about it.
You're right, Len. It certainly appears that way. It seems like he's doing it for the publicity, and I think you're right. Len, I appreciate the phone call. Let's try to squeeze in...
Good call, Len. Happy New Year.
Let's try to squeeze in one more quick phone call. Let's go to Carl. Carl, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
What's up, Carl?
Yeah. Hi, guys.
What's up?
Listen, people, here's a point that people don't realize. Most of these anti-Semites are actually very hypocritical. They claim to be very religious Christians and so forth.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
But to think of this point, Jesus Christ was born a Jew. He was Jewish family. He was a rabbi. He was considered the son of God, if you read the Bible.
Right.
And that means God made a mistake by picking him as a... So what they're doing is they're completely going against their own religion.
No, you're right,
by
Carl.
being anti-Semitic.
Carl, you make a very good point there. You're right. And I think I've said this on this show before, and I'll say it again. It just seems to me, not all, but a lot of people that are the most religious, ultra-religious people are usually the people that are committing the most sins in society. They're the ones who want to tell you, don't do that, that's a sin. Don't do that, that's a sin. And then we have all these priests that are molesting boys, and you have all these, religious people, some of which are on the right, but I don't want to make this political, but ultra-religious people that are cheating on their wives and committing all these crimes. It just disgusts me, man. This stuff needs to stop. It continues to talk. Now, I can tell you something. When Stretch Sanders comes in the 10 a.m. hour, I want to ask him, what does he feel about these Hebrew Israelites? You just told me that African Americans, they can't be racist. Can they be anti-Semitic? Because it certainly appears that this guy was. We'll ask Stretch Sanders coming up in hour number 2. But coming up next, a very interesting New York Times article that came out. Donald Trump having a very interesting conversation with Vladimir Putin. Why didn't the White House release it before the Kremlin did? We'll talk about that coming up next. You're listening to the Vegas Take.
V is for victory, except on Saturdays when V is for veterans. That's Veterans Talk, The Forgotten Promise. Join us every Saturday from noon to 1.
Veterans Talk every Saturday at noon on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's largest mortgage lender. Let's talk credit card debt for a minute. If you feel you're carrying too much of it, you're not alone. The average household in the U.S. carries over $8,000 in credit card debt. Ready for some good news? With a cash-out refinance from Quicken Loans, you can quickly and easily put some of the equity in your home to good use by paying off a lot of that high-interest credit card debt. A great way to take cash out is with our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.99%. APR 4.23%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN to learn how taking cash out with a 30-year fixed mortgage might be the right solution for you. And for a record 10 years in a row, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
For JD Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Rates subject to change. Pay 2% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Maybe it's time to take a fresh look at everything we thought we knew about landing a great job. For instance, what if phenomenal careers start at the middle school science fair instead of at the job fair? If being the captain of the robotics team means just as much on a college application as being captain of the football team. And if knowing the quadratic formula is every bit as important as knowing the right people. Well, the fact is, the jobs of the future will be heavily geared towards science, technology, engineering, and math. In other words, the future is STEM. More opportunities, better pay. And the road to these great jobs starts as early as middle school. So if you're a student, talk to your school counselor about STEM. If you're a parent, talk to your kids. Because the job you'll get in the future may very well depend on what you do today. A public service message from America's Navy.
Hey, are you ready to quit smoking? There's a free Nevada resource here to help you. Just call 1-800-QUIT-NOW from a Nevada area code.
1015 FM, 720 AM, the talk of Las Vegas.
The Pentagon says additional U.S. forces are being deployed to protect the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad after a mob of Shiite militiamen tried to storm the building. The State Department in flames.
It seems like on the one hand, the crowd has gotten smaller, but they appear to have managed to have set fire to this enclosed area that is where you would go to get your ID badge and go through the security scanners before actually setting foot into the compound itself.
The fury erupting 2 days after U.S. airstrikes on an Iran-backed militia in Iraq. President Trump says he'll sign the first phase of a trade deal with China next month, tweeting that he'll travel to Beijing later on for talks on phase 2. Consumer confidence slipped a bit this month on lower expectations for economic growth in the new year. I'm Jan Johnson.
It's time to check the roads in the KDON Traffic Center.
This report sponsored by Lowe's. Watch for slowing for a crash reported I-15 northbound at Craig Road. Vehicles off to the right. Also an accident on the surface streets, Las Vegas Boulevard at Warm Springs Road. Watch for police activity in the area. And road work continues on Fremont between Charleston and Sahara. Remember, they're shutting down the Strip for tonight's festivities. Pros do it right by shopping at Lowe's to save on the supplies they need most from the brands they trust to get the job done. Do it right for less. Start with Lowe's. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
Doctors Without Borders teams confront hard facts in conflict and crisis zones. When others look away, we step in to act. Because measles still kills more than 100,000 children every year, we're there to vaccinate more than 1 million. Because some countries have only 1 or 2 mental health professionals, we provided over 400,000 mental health consultations last year. The fact is, your support makes our life-saving work possible. Picture the impact we can have together. DoctorsWithoutBorders.org.
Hey, have you heard that ransomware attacks have increased by 500% this year?
Yeah, cybercriminals are targeting all types of businesses, encrypting their data and holding it hostage unless they pay up.
What if we're their next victim?
Don't worry, we have Barracuda to detect, prevent, and recover from ransomware and other advanced threats.
So we're secured?
Absolutely. We'll pay no ransom and keep this business up and running.
That's a relief.
Protect your business at Barracuda.com. Barracuda, your journey secured.
3 years ago, my mom, my sweetheart, who had type 2 diabetes, died of heart disease. We didn't know that if you have diabetes, you are 2 to 4 times more likely to develop cardiovascular disease. And what's truly shocking to me is that millions of people living with diabetes aren't aware of their increased risk for heart disease. What will it take to sink in? If you have type 2 diabetes, know your risk of heart disease. Know your risk of heart disease. Know your risk of heart disease. Be good to yourself and those you love by knowing your risk. Heart disease and diabetes are linked. No matter how you have to hear it, please listen. Because the sooner you know your heart disease risk, the more you and your doctor can do about it. Go to foryoursweetheart.com.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Each weekday morning beginning at 5, join award-winning news anchor John Schaefer for the KDAWN Morning News. Every 30 minutes, John will update you on the day's top local, national, and international news. Plus breaking news as it happens. The KDAWN Morning News, weekdays 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. Only on 101.5 FM, 720 a.m. KDAWN, the talk of Las Vegas. Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 a.m. KDAWN.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro, so glad you could join us. Uh-oh, what happened to our music? And it just brought, there we go. It's back again. I feel naked when, going into a break when I don't have music underneath me. And trust me, ladies, you don't want to see that. You don't want to hear it or see it. Anyway, welcome back to the show. Glad you could join us. Coming up here in just a little bit, we're going to speak to activist, the minister himself, Stretch Sanders, who said it is not possible for a minority, particularly an African-American, to be racist. Well, I'm going to ask him this question then. And by the way, I completely disagree with that statement. But I'm going to ask him this question. Well, is it possible for an African-American to be an anti-Semite? Because in this machete attack, this man was black. So I'm going to specifically ask him those questions and more.
And then if he says yes, you'll say, well, and is anti-Semitism considered racism?
Of course it is. Because you're looking at someone based, on what they look like or religion. It's the same thing. It's just ignorance. Anyway,
I like your plan.
We'll get to that coming up in hour number 2. I'm ready for it. It's going to be an explosive hour of radio. I promise you that. But, I wanted to get to what's going on with the Trump administration. And now Democrats are saying that it is a game changer. A new report that the New York Times put out yesterday shows the need for witnesses in the Senate impeachment trial. And the reason for that is because this report, as I said, that was written by the New York Times, outlines the acting White House Chief of Staff, Mick Mulvaney's involvement in the Ukraine aid freeze, and also describes other top White House officials' efforts to convince President Trump to release the aid, including Bolton. There were people around the president that were telling the president to release the aid. It didn't work. The president would not buy into that. And according to these emails and according to these messages that the New York Times has obtained, it did not work. And Trump was absolutely 100% involved in withholding the aid, even though people around him, and they were right, like Bolton, like Mulvaney, tried to advise the president to not do that. And that is why now Democrats are saying more than ever, screaming to high heaven, that we need more witnesses.
And they have very little faith in Joe Biden. They don't want to ask Hillary
It has
Clinton
nothing to do with that.
No, the Democrats think they don't have a chance in 2020, and
that
they
has
don't.
nothing to do with what I just said.
And so they're going all out on impeachment.
Okay, I don't think
because
that,
they have
hold
to.
on. Okay, first of all, I don't consider that going all out. Forget about the politics of this for a second. You have people, the New York Times has obtained emails that show that John Bolton and Mulvaney were advising the president to not withhold aid, and apparently, allegedly, it didn't work, and the president wouldn't budge on it. Don't you think in this specific case, forget about politics for a second, that Mulvaney and Bolton should testify under oath as witnesses to find out the truth? Forget about, who's going to win in 2020 and who the Democrats have up there. Don't you think any logical person in a Senate trial would want to hear from Bolton and Mulvaney? It's a pretty logical and simple question, isn't it?
Well, I'm not saying that they shouldn't testify, but I'm giving you the reason as to why this is going the way that it's going.
And I'm giving you the reason why we should have these two testify. It's now more important than ever in these emails. And listen, the New York Times, I don't know how they got these emails, but it is a bombshell of a report, because it shows that there are some competent people around the president of the United States. They advised him not to do this because they knew it was a mistake. And remember, Mulvaney was the guy in a press conference that said there was a quid pro quo. And then, of course, when the president and people around him said, no, you got to retract that, when he told the truth, and then he had to go back and he struggled retracting that, Mulvaney said it in a press conference in the White House. He said there was a quid pro quo. And I do believe this report. It makes complete sense to me. Bolton, say what you want about Bolton. He's not a dumb guy. He's got a ton of experience. He's extremely intelligent. And I'm telling you right now, if the Republicans don't want to hear from Mulvaney, and if the Republicans do not want to hear from Bolton as witnesses, then they have no backbone, and they clearly don't care about the president's behavior. All they care about is that there is a Republican that is running the presidency of the United States. I mean, that's what it comes down to me. But here's another story that I find extremely troubling. We've said it for a long time now. I don't know why the president has a love affair with the evil, murderous dictator, the Kremlin, and that is Vladimir Putin. I don't understand it. I don't know why. Well, news arrived early Sunday morning that the president had spoken to his Russian counterpart. But guess what? That information did not come from the White House. After the Kremlin decided to issue a brief statement saying that Putin had initiated this call to thank Trump for information that was provided by the United States that helped foil a terrorist attack in St. Petersburg. Then 24 hours later, all of a sudden, the White House releases some information. The Kremlin released more information. Neither side provided much more detail, but here's what we know, and again, I find this troubling. Trump is now facing a pending choice. He's talked about it before that could lead to more questions about his ties to Putin. He's been invited to Moscow by Putin to attend this Victory Day parade. Have you heard about this? It happens in May, and it marks the 75th anniversary of the Allied victory over the Nazis. Now, the president has said several times in the past that he'd be interested in attending this, and Vladimir Putin, his buddy, has invited him once again. So my question is, why is it every single time, and I mean every single time, Vladimir Putin enters a conversation with the president, he always defends him? Why is it that he takes Vladimir Putin's side over our own CIA, over our own FBI? Why would the president even entertain going to this event? That's my question, JD. I know you're a Trump supporter. Why is it that he supports a guy and is so nice to Vladimir Putin, yet our own politician in our own country, who we might disagree with on policy, he couldn't be more nasty to? For example, going after Nancy Pelosi's appearance a few weeks ago, commenting on her teeth. Do you ever think he would make a comment like that about Vladimir Putin or Kim Jong-un? Why? Why is he so close to Vladimir Putin? That is the question to me, that is the question of the Trump presidency that I want to answer.
Because if he made a comment about Vladimir Putin in that regard, it could start a war. If he did the same thing about Kim Jong-un, it could start a war. He's trying to avoid starting wars. He understands that Vladimir Putin is probably one of the top 3 most powerful people in the world at this point. Nancy Pelosi is someone that he is part of an administration that is trying to get him out of office.
Okay, fair enough.
And he's and the way that he responds, obviously calling Schiff a pencil neck and calling making fun of Pelosi's teeth and everything else he's done. But he's not going to do the exact same thing with a leader of a foreign country because it could cause a much, much bigger issue.
Okay, so I don't want the president to do that, and I am not insinuating that, and I agree with you. But at the same time, it doesn't mean you have to kiss the ass of evil, murderous dictators either. Doesn't mean you have to insult them.
I just think he doesn't want to start a conflict with Russia, and really, I don't blame him for that.
Not wanting to start a conflict with Russia is one thing, but taking Vladimir Putin's advice over our own CIA is something completely different. Going over there and entertaining this anniversary and this celebration is utterly ridiculous. And why is it that the White House never puts out these transcripts first? Why is it that the White House never tells us, oh, yeah, the president had a conversation with Vladimir Putin? Why is it that we have to hear it from the Russians first? Well, I'll tell you why that is, because I don't think the president wants the information out. And I certainly don't think he wants all the information out. And by the way, these days, guess what? If you want to get on a presidential phone call with another leader, boy, they are limiting who can listen to these conversations. This most recent, call with Putin comes amid fresh scrutiny into Trump's phone calls with foreign leaders and the White House's handling of those conversations, including recent attempts to limit the number of people who now can listen in. Now, why would they be doing that? Well, they're doing that because they're afraid, probably, of what Donald Trump will say in another phone call. Because the man is an idiot. That's why. And, there's plenty of things that he's probably said in many of these conversations that we'll never know. What we know in some of these conversations and some of the things he said are completely ridiculous. Let's Open up the phone line, 702-257-5396. Again, that number to call is 702-257-5396. And by the way, I want to add this. Trump has spent one of every 5 days in 2019 at one of his golf clubs. According to CNN's tally, he spent at least 252 days at a Trump golf club and 333 days at a Trump property as president. Obama played 333 rounds of golf. That's during his 8 years. Okay, Trump's already about to surpass that after a couple years. And remember, Donald Trump was the guy who went after Barack Obama before Trump was president, saying, oh, when I'm president, I'm not going to be able to play golf. When I'm president, I'm not going to have time to play golf. I'm going to be so busy. Let me repeat that once again to you Trump supporters out there, because I think this is very important. And remember, this is the guy who attacked Barack Obama for playing too much golf. One of every 5 days, that is 20%, if math serves me right, in 2019, he has been at one of his golf courses. Is that the guy you want running this country? 20% of the time playing golf? I know people who don't even have jobs that have money that don't play that much golf, who love golf, let alone the president of the United States. And by the way, his own golf club. So who's profiting off of that? When the president arrives at one of his own resorts, who do you think is profiting off of that? And who is suffering from it? Well, you and I are suffering from it because it is the taxpayers. Who's profiting from it? The Trump administration. I shouldn't say the Trump administration, the Trump family. That's who profiting from that. But I don't hear Republicans calling out Donald Trump for this. Geez, I wonder why. All I heard was Republicans for 8 years complaining that Barack Obama played too much golf. Don't hear them complaining about Donald Trump. I'm just so sick of it. The irony of it, right? This is the guy.
I think they would be complaining if he wasn't doing quite a few things in Republicans' eyes or fiscal conservatives' eyes to actually help the country and help their pocketbooks, which he is. I think if he wasn't doing these things, if he wasn't getting things done, and he wasn't trying to do the things that he said that he ran on, like, for example, building the wall.
Which he hasn't done.
Trying to do these things.
Which he hasn't done.
The wall is being built currently.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Not in the way, not in the way he described it. Absolutely not.
The wall is being built, Brian. Mexico did not pay for it, but the wall is being built.
Well, he campaigned on that. We're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. Remember when he did the shouts? We're going to build a wall. And who's going to pay for it? Mexico.
And he made every single he made every single conscious effort to make that happen. It just did not take place.
Well, fine. I could say I'm going to invade, Area 54. Is it Area 54? I could say
it's Area 69.
Yeah, Area 69. Yeah, they're very funny. I could say I'm going to make every effort to do it, but it doesn't mean I'm going to do it if it's an outrageous claim.
It's not that outrageous. That would be much more outrageous. Your claim would than
it's an outrageous claim.
But if he wasn't getting things done, then I think you would hear a big outcry from conservatives.
Right. Well, let's take your phone calls out there. What do you guys think? 702-257-5396. We're talking about Trump playing golf at one of his golf clubs at least 1 out of every 5 days in 2019, which is unbelievably ridiculous. We're also talking about this phone call that President Donald Trump had with Vladimir Putin. But guess who we heard it from first? We didn't hear it from the White House. We heard it from the Kremlin. And now Vladimir Putin inviting him out on a date, apparently, this 75th anniversary of the Allied victory over the Nazis. And the fact that Trump is even entertaining this I think is completely ridiculous. That number to call again, 257-5396. Let's go to Roger. Roger, you're first up. What's going on, Roger?
Hey, Roger.
Hey, Happy New Year's, guys.
You too.
I wanted to say something to JD. JD, is it because you're from Iowa that you're so naive about Trump being a coward to Putin? Look, we got the greatest army, greatest military in the world. Afraid to fight a war, afraid to call Putin a little midget, or he called Kim Jong-un all kind of names. You telling me he's afraid to call him names because you don't want to start a war? Are you really serious, JD? Are you really apologetic for this coward, this draft dodging, this ignorant man that luckily got elected? You really support this guy? Do you really think he's a good? No, let me say this one thing. If I was a drug dealer, but yet still I went around and I paved the roads on my street and I painted all my neighbor's house, would that make me an okay guy?
Ooh, I like that analogy. Roger, I like that analogy. JD, go ahead. Go ahead, JD. Respond to that. Let's go ahead, Roger. Hang on the line. Go ahead, JD.
Why would I want Donald Trump to call Vladimir Putin a midget, Roger, or Anthony, or Barry, or Dan or Steve.
All right, well, nobody cares about that.
Or whatever
Have the
alias
conversation.
you want to use for the 50th time that you've called them with a different name. Stick with your name from now on, please, by the way.
All right, nobody cares about
I'd
that.
like
Have
to
the
address
conversation.
that being said,
cares
no,
about my name.
okay, you're right. Now you are actually right there. Now, that being said, I don't want a war with Russia at all. I want nothing to do with that. The United States doesn't want that. It would not be effective. And if Donald Trump were to call Vladimir Putin a midget, there's a chance that could take place. That's just common sense. It has nothing to do with me being from Iowa.
Yo, man, you know what? That's
There's no naivety attached to that.
Come on,
I just
man.
don't don't want a war. It's very simple.
And listen, first of all, JD, where Donald Trump doesn't even know what the hell he's doing.
Oh, okay, you're right.
He sees up first of all.
The S&P just hit 9,000 for the first time in American history last week.
So what does that have
Do you own any stock?
Of course, I own stock.
Oh, you do? Okay. I don't think you do.
You're making an irrational. You're conflating something. You're saying the guy's a fool, but the stock market is great.
I'm not saying. When did I say he's a fool? You said he was a fool.
He is a fool.
Well, he is a fool.
You know
I
that.
agree. I don't think.
a damn fool.
All right. Well, hold on a
The
second.
guy-
Let me try to mediate this a little bit here, Roger. Now, I agree with both of you to a certain extent. Here's where I do agree with JD. I don't think it would suit the United States any good if the president called Vladimir Putin a midget. At the same time, I don't think it suits the country well when he kisses Vladimir Putin's ass and wears the Vladimir Putin knee pads either. So I agree with both of you. There has to be some middle ground here. And I'll go back to Kim Jong-un for a second. When he's asked about the murder of Otto Warmbier, and by the way, make no mistake about it, Otto was murdered for taking down a poster. And when the president is on a world stage and he's asked about that, and his stupid, cowardly response is, well, you know, I asked Kim Jong-un about it, and he said he felt very bad about it, and he had nothing to do with it. So I believe him. That is an embarrassment to the country, JD. You have to admit that, JD. Give me that at least.
Let's break down the Otto Warmbier situation. He goes to North Korea as a student. I'm not rationalizing anything. I'm saying break it.
He was murdered. Why can't we just agree he was murdered?
He took he took a
down a
poster. He
poster.
took a propaganda poster off and he tried to bring it back.
So
to
you
the
think he
United
deserved to
States.
be murdered?
I'm not suggesting he of course he didn't deserve to be murdered, but
So why are we even talking about
the
that?
rules in that country are different than the United States, and,
Well, what did Donald Trump
when you travel to that country, you have to abide by those rules.
Donald Trump
Otherwise,
take
there
his
will be
word for it?
consequences.
Okay, so why didn't Trump say that then?
Yeah.
Why didn't he say that then? Why didn't Trump give that explanation? You know what the explanation he gave is that he believed Kim Jong-un. Do you believe that Kim Jong-un felt sorry for the Otto Warmbier death? This is a man who's killed hundreds of thousands, probably, of his own people. He killed his own brother-in-law.
He killed his own brother-in-law.
Yeah, and you think that is appropriate for the president of the United States to get up there on a stage and defend Kim Jong-un? How do you think the Otto Warmbier family and friends felt when the president defends Kim Jong-un over their own son? How do you think they felt?
And I don't support Kim Jong-un either. I mean, Kim Jong-un has something called a pleasure squad, and it is literally thousands of women that service himself and his military leaders, and they just cycle them through. So Kim Jong-un has done some pretty terrible things in North Korea.
Go ahead, Roger.
What does that got to do with Donald Trump being such a coward and a lie? He goes in and he kisses Kim Jong-un behind. He said he believes everything the dictator does.
No, he's not. He's not kissing his behind. He's just not starting a conflict. Here's the thing: Donald Trump he'll say something about Justin Trudeau because Justin Trudeau is not. He's not a threat. Vladimir Putin could potentially be a threat. Kim Jong-un could potentially be a threat, and he recognizes that.
Mm-hmm.
And when he sees actual threats, he treats them a little differently.
For the record, though,
because he doesn't want to start a war.
Roger,
despite the fact that 80% of the far left believe that he does.
For the record, Roger, I appreciate the phone call. If you are a drug dealer, you can pave my driveway any day of the week. I would appreciate that. 257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Moon. Moon, you are next on the Vegas Take. What is on your mind?
What's up, Moon?
Oh, no, how you guys doing? I was actually calling about, I'm really thankful for you guys because, I just came across your guys' channel and I just love hearing all the point of view. But I have a question about.
Thank you.
So when Trump started running for president, he was talking about how Obama wasn't even born in this country.
Correct. He did that for years, by the way.
When you hear it's supporters saying well, Trump is not racist and all that. But my question is, why did he continue over and over again saying well, this man wasn't born here, and then he and his dad back in the 70s, they wouldn't even ran to black people. And
There's no question, Moon, that Donald Trump's family has a history of mistreating African Americans. Okay, that is proven when you look at all the lawsuits.
His father definitely does.
Okay, there's no question about that, number one. Number two, listen, Moon, you bring up a really, really good point in that what was the reasoning for Donald Trump for years? I think this went on for 5 years, claiming that Barack Obama was not born in this country. Did he ever apologize? Did he ever say, you know what, I was totally wrong. My sources were wrong. It was inappropriate for me to ever bring this up. I truly am sorry to the Obamas. No, because he'll never do that. He'll never apologize because he can do no wrong, right? The man is perfect. Just like it was a perfect phone call with the Ukrainian president, right? It was the perfect call, right? Donald Trump is perfect. I mean, if you asked him, his physical strength and stamina, he'd tell you it's perfect. If you asked him anything about his sex life, he would tell you it's perfect, even though he and Melania do not sleep in the same bed with one another. And Donald Trump is considered obese, but he would tell you he is in perfect physical condition because the man is a narcissist. Yeah, look, there are some people that make the argument, and listen, I understand why they do, that Donald Trump is a racist. I'm on the fence on that. I can tell you right now that he is a hateful person. He is a horrible human being. I don't know if he's a racist or not. I don't know what's in his heart. He's never just flat out said the N-word, but certainly the way he treated Obama for years was disgusting, Moon.
And just one more question before I leave.
Yes.
And the other thing is about bullying, you know how we call people's name
Yes.
and all that. And when kids go to school, they get bullied a lot.
Sure.
So when they hear the president of the United States calling people's name,
absolutely.
The whole thing about his wife out there, promoting hey, you guys should be nice.
Yeah, the queen of cyber. Yeah, exactly.
And and I just understand how we can excuse this.
You can't
when he goes around and call people's names.
Moon, that's a good point.
That's okay.
Yeah, no, it's
I don't get it.
Moon. You make a couple really valid points there, and that's probably one of the better points is that the first lady is the queen, you can say, of anti-cyberbullying. Well, guess what? Her husband is the king of cyberbullying. He does it every day. Let's try to squeeze in one more quick phone call, and then we got to go to break. Let's go to Marge. Marge, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, Marge?
Happy New Year to both of you.
Thank you.
Couple of comments about all of this. Number one, Nancy was holding the impeachment orders to see if there's anything more that's coming out about Trump. And I think the reports about what Bolton was saying and everything else, I think give credence to that.
Mm-hmm.
The other is this Russian call. A couple of weeks ago, the broadcasters in Russia are calling Trump their agent, which is very concerning. I don't think that much was publicized in the United States about that, but it is concerning.
Sure.
And the other is that Kremlin issuing a readout of the calls that happened between Putin and Trump.
Mm-hmm.
That way they control the message. And I almost think that was probably a side agreement that Trump has had with Putin. That,
there's no question.
Whatever,
There's no question that this wasn't an accident, that they orchestrated this. There's no question. Yeah. And I have a huge problem with that, and any American should. They are orchestrating this together. There is no question that we don't know everything that was said in that phone call. In fact, we probably didn't even know 20%. Maybe we know 20% of what was stated in that phone call. Marge, that's an excellent point. Always good to hear from you. Have a great New Year.
Good call, Marge.
There's no question about that Putin and Donald Trump are in cahoots with one another, and I don't know why. Now, I could come up with, reasons, and I can speculate. Maybe it has something to do with business that Trump has in Russia that maybe we don't know about. Maybe Putin has something on Trump that we don't know about.
I just love this double standard here where before Trump actually met Kim Jong-un through Dennis Rodman, his close friend, people were talking about, because him and Kim Jong-un, they were going back and forth on Twitter quite a bit about how a possible nuclear war could take place. Trump was calling Kim Jong-un names, Kim Jong-un was calling Trump names, et cetera, and everybody was afraid that he was going to start this world war. Now the narrative is, now he's just kissing all these dictators' asses.
We got to take a break. Unfortunately, I don't have time to comment on that because coming up next is the minister. Well, I do. There's something called a break in radio. We got to take a break. But Minister Stretch Sanders is coming up next. Maybe we can continue this conversation a little bit on the other side of the break. The Minister Stretch Sanders coming up next. You're listening to the Vegas Take.
You know, I've heard the local small business community just loves the DLC. Why is that, Chuck?
Look, small businesses have one goal. That's to get new customers and keep current customers. But sometimes their customers are short on money. That's where we come in. Vets, doctors, dentists, apartment complexes, auto repair shops. Really any small business that sells anything can send their customers to us.
And you hook their customers up with the cash they need. Brilliant. No wonder they send their customers to Dollar Loan Center.
We're also the perfect place to send your employees when they hit you up for an advance on their paycheck or a loan. We're going to treat your staff like family and eliminate that awkwardness of you having to say no.
That was Chuck, founder of Dollar Loan Center, where you can get up to $5,000 in just minutes, even if you don't have a checking account. We have over 50 locations, or you can apply over the phone or online at don'tbebroke.com.
Licensed by Nevada Financial Institutions Division. Customer must meet the normal loan qualifications. To review loan qualifications, visit us at don'tbebroke.com. Certain limitations may apply. Loans are subject to approval.
And now a message from the traffic cone you ran over on Blue Diamond last week.
Okay, ow, that hurt. I know, you're in a hurry, but I could have been killed. Look, I have a wife and a baby cone on the way. I'm out there risking it all. And for what? I'll tell you. Southern Nevada's economic future. I'm helping the I-11 get built and the Centennial Bowl. So show a cone a little love.
Love the cone. For road construction details, visit seeingorangenv.com or call 702-928-CONE.
Hey, this is Matt Franco, inviting you to bring home the magic that comes with saving a life. Every day at the Animal Foundation, you'll find hundreds of loyal, loving shelter pets looking for their permanent homes. Visit the Animal Foundation's new adoption center today or find your pet online at animalfoundation.com.
The only FM news talk station in the Valley. 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN Las Vegas, a Beasley Media Group station.
I'm Jan Johnson. The State Department says all the Americans at the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad are safe despite a violent protest of U.S. airstrikes on an Iran-backed militia that had a mob scaling the compound walls and forcing the gates. Correspondent Arwa Damon says efforts to end the attack included tear gas and words.
The Iraqi prime minister, the caretaker prime minister, is to a certain degree trying to calm down the situation, although remember, he called those strikes by the U.S. a violation of Iraqi sovereignty, but he is calling on the protesters to not resort to violence.
The Pentagon says more U.S. security forces are being sent in. In Texas, our Clayton Neville says President Trump is tweeting about the armed churchgoers who ended the gunfire that killed 2 other parishioners.
The president praising the armed congregants of the church on Twitter, saying if it weren't for the fact that there were people inside the church that were both armed and highly proficient in using their weapon, the end result would have been catastrophic. Police say the shooter was killed within 6 seconds of opening fire.
In much of the world, it is already the new year. Fireworks in Singapore among the festivities as the start of 2020 marches in the direction of New York's Times Square, where Miguel Marcus says revelers and security teams are already out in force.
They will have vast swaths of the area blocked off by trucks. They will even use drones if the weather permits. They were meant to use them last year. They will also have a crew that will watch for rogue drones in the event that others try to fly their drones illegally over this area.
President Trump says he'll sign phase 1 of a trade deal with China on January 15th. The president tweeting he'll also travel to Beijing in the new year to jumpstart talks on phase 2. Wall Street, 2019 going out with a whimper, the Dow down. I'm Jan Johnson.
It's time to check the roads in the KDON Traffic Center.
This report sponsored by Lowe's. Watch for slowing for a crash reported I-15 northbound at Craig Road. Vehicles off to the right. Also an accident on the surface streets, Las Vegas Boulevard at Warm Springs Road. Watch for police activity in the area. And road work continues on Fremont between Charleston and Sahara. Remember, they're shutting down the Strip for tonight's festivities. Pros do it right by shopping at Lowe's to save on the supplies they need most from the brands they trust to get the job done. Do it right for less. Start with Lowe's. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
This holiday season, get the rest you deserve with Helix Sleep. Helix makes personalized mattresses to fit your unique body type and sleep preferences and give you the best sleep of your life. Go to helixsleep.com and get up to $200 off during their holiday sale.
This is Harry Jacobs from Credit Restoration of Nevada, inviting you to join me for the Credit Show, Saturday mornings between 9 and 10, here on the new 101.5 FM and 720 AM, KDON.
I'm Jim Snyder.
And I'm Marie Mortera. We want to thank you for making News 3 your #1 choice for news.
Every weeknight at 11, you can count on us to have the big story of the day.
Plus breaking news that matters to you.
Jim Snyder and Marie Mortera. News 3 live at 11.
Tina Trenner is back, and she's on 720 AM 1015 FM KDWN every Sunday at 12 p.m. She's sick of the nonsense and has something to say every Sunday at 12 p.m.
If you need to sell your house,
talk to Aaron Taylor.
You want to sell it fast and get the most cash, talk to Aaron Taylor,
the real estate guy.
Aaron Taylor here, your #1 real estate guy. 2019 was an incredible year, and 2020 will be even better. We have designed a 3-step program to get our sellers the most money possible. Number 1, sellers that want a cash offer, we will provide you several offers from all iBuyer companies: Zillow, OfferPad, Opendoor, and all local investors. Number 2, we will pay and do all repairs with our crew and list your property to get you the highest price. Number 3, for our traditional sellers, we will provide our 25 years of experience along with our exceptional marketing campaign, all to get you the most money possible. And to top it all off, we give a cash advance within 24 hours if needed for all sellers. Call 702-310-6683. That's 702-310-MOVE. eXp Realty, call for details.
talk to Aaron Taylor,
The real estate guy.
This is Lorraine Hunt Bono, inviting you to tune in for Breaking Bread with Bono. Join my husband, Dennis Bono, as celebrities share with him their intimate and humorous stories. Saturdays, 5 to 6 p.m., right here on KDON.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today, I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
1015 FM, 720 AM, KDON, the talk of Las Vegas. Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro rolling out the red carpet here for hour number 2. Man, just hours away from 2020. This year has just flown by. Coming up, by the way, in hour number 3, we have one of the Raiders' most famous fans for over 25 years. The Violator will be joining us in hour number 3. Why he will not be attending Raiders games in Vegas. We have that. Also, MintyBets from Wager Talk will be joining us in studio hour number 3 as well. But joining us in studio as he does every week, every Tuesday. Always love having this guy here. Does so many good things for a lot of good people. The minister himself, Stretch Sanders, joining us in studio. Stretch, thanks for being here. How are you, my friend?
Guys.
What's
Happy
up,
holidays.
Stretch? Thank
Good to
you.
see you.
How was your Christmas?
I was really good. Went back home, saw my grandma, saw my family, saw my dad after 8 years, and so it was a lot of good reunions.
You saw your dad after 8 years. Why did it take that long to see your dad?
Well, a lot of it was by choice. So
Yeah.
when we left Chicago, we were 16, and he didn't raise me and my brother. So when we got like 17, we decided that we did not want to see him until we was what we considered to be successful.
I got you.
So
that makes sense.
We just kind of every time we go back, and then when I ran for mayor this year, he introduced us to our siblings. 'Cause me and my brother was our father's secret children for our whole life.
Gotcha.
So at that point, I was like, you know what? We know his family.
That makes sense.
I was at peace with it. And
Well,
so,
I'm
you know
glad.
what, let's
let's
rekindle.
I'm glad you were able to do that. That sounds
Yes.
okay. So I want to
That's
get
very cool.
Every week we get into some very serious topics with you. Some of the things you say on the show I don't always agree with, but I respect your opinion, and we talk about some very serious issues here. You've said on this show before, and I disagree with it. I respect your opinion, but I disagree with it. That you do not feel that African Americans can be racist. So I want to ask you this question. There's this group that has been out now. They're called the Black Hebrew Israelites. One of the members of that group allegedly, because, in the writings, the anti-Semitic writings and everything. He followed this group, and he called himself a member of this group. He goes into the house of a rabbi with a machete, targeting Jewish people. You might have heard of this, wounding five or six people. He's an African American. If you're telling me it's not possible for African Americans to be racist, isn't it possible for African Americans to be anti-Semitic?
I think that it's possible for us to be anti-anybody, and I think that if you're dealing with a Semitic people, and because some will argue and say that Africans are Semitic, and they say you can't be anti something that you are, but I still think that you can still be of that same cloth. So if Africans are Semitic people and people who are Jewish are Semitic, and they're operating as far as trying to hurt that person because they're Jewish, then that can be a form of anti-Semitism. But I just think that the biggest thing is that act is an act of hatred, and I don't in any way, shape, or form condone hatred.
And I'm not saying you do, and I never would insinuate that, but the point I'm trying to make is I don't care what the color of your skin is. You could be black, white, I don't care. I think anybody has the ability, sadly, to be racist or anti-Semitic. Now, what is the difference between racism and anti-Semitism? Well, to be honest with you, I think there's a lot of different differences there. I mean, you're looking at someone at what they look like, maybe their religion, and you want to hurt somebody just because they're different than you. I could look at the same thing as if you're white or black, and you look at someone at their skin color. They're not like you, so you show this hatred towards them. That's why we call it a hate crime. For example, if an African American attacks someone because they're white, that is a hate crime. If a white person attacks another white person because of their homosexuality, that is a hate crime. Or in this instance, this African American decided to specifically target Jewish people.
Right.
That is a hate crime.
To be homophobic, homophobia means that you dislike somebody just because they're gay, just because they're lesbian.
And this person dislikes somebody because of their religion.
Right. But that has nothing to do with racism, though. So racism, to be racist, means you have prejudice plus power. I think the point I was trying to drive home and still is that white people have to understand, because when you say everybody can be racist, what it does is white people have the license at that point to say, well, just forget about slavery. We all been racist. And it's like, no, racism is a systemic issue. Racism is almost like a creation. Because of racism and white supremacy, you have black ghettos and brown ghettos. That was created by racism. We can be prejudiced. We can do hate crimes. We can be hateful. We can be mean-spirited, but we cannot be racist.
So I watched...
Now, somebody beating somebody up for walking down the street who's white, yes, that's prejudice because you did not know this person. You just solely saw that they were white and you attacked them. That's prejudice. Being prejudiced is just as bad as being racist. It's not a matter of what's
They're
worse.
both awful things.
But I think that we just have different views of that term. So people call in and they think I'm saying we can't be prejudiced. It's almost like the way you guys view the word racism is how I view the word prejudice. It's the same definition in both of our eyes, but we're using two different terms.
So are you kind of saying that because the machete wielding person that killed those four
didn't kill?
I'm sorry. Okay, attacked those four Hasidic Jews in New York City, and it was predicated on religion and not skin color, that it wasn't racist?
It probably was mostly because it really just depends. Because if you look at it like why they just came in on that, just like if there's a house full of gay people and they say 5 gay people attacked, out of all these houses you could attack, other white people in the block.
It's a hate crime.
But if you got 3 houses and all 3 houses there's groups of 5 white people, but the house on the end you go in and you attack the house with the gay people, that will be more viewed as that was a hate crime against gay people. Because you just say
this is a hate crime against Jews. There's no question about it.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So
we agree
but being
on that,
Jewish is not a race. Jewish is a religion.
It's a religion, correct. I agree with you. Well, let me ask you this, because you mentioned slavery a little bit. And I'm watching this Farrakhan video where he appeared years ago on the Jerry Springer show. And they're talking about race. And Farrakhan said that he believes that all white people should feel guilt slavery. And I'm going to look you in the eye right now. I'm going to tell you this. I feel zero guilt. And the reason why I feel zero guilt for slavery is because I know in my heart, and I know factually, I had zero to do with it, and I am not a hateful person, and I am not a racist. I also know that my parents are not racist people. They didn't raise me that way. They had nothing to do with slavery. So I resent the fact when I hear African Americans, not all, some, say that we all as white people should feel guilt for slavery when I had absolutely nothing to do with it. And I'll tell you why I feel that way. I'm Jewish. If I speak to someone that is from German descent, or if I went to Germany, I wouldn't tell all Germans that they should feel guilt for what happened in Nazi Germany and the killing of 6 or 7 million Jews. You know why I would say that? Because the person I'm talking to, I would hope, is not anti-Semitic and doesn't want to kill innocent Jews, and they had nothing to do with what happened in Nazi Germany. Do you agree with that?
Well, I just want to backtrack real quick. I don't think do you think it was Jerry Springer or was it Donahue?
I apologize. It was Donahue.
Okay.
I apologize.
So
yes.
what he said was, it was Phil Donahue, 1990. What he said was, white people feel a sense of guilt.
I don't.
I
don't at all.
He didn't say white people should guilt. He said feel a sense of guilt.
Well, he's wrong.
Speaking in general.
He's wrong.
Speaking in general, he's correct.
I don't feel that way.
The masses of white people, there's a guilt thing.
Why?
And what they fear is that if we ever come to power, we will do unto those they done to us. That's why, hear me out. That's why white people are, whenever we have our own thing.
But is that guilt or is that just fear?
It's guilt. Because what fuels that fear? Guilt, right? When you know something is going to come back to you, you're afraid. To be afraid means you have fear. So when you think about it, white people don't give any other group the same hard time they give us. If Hispanics would have said all lives matter, brown lives matter, they'd have stayed quiet. They don't go in Chinatown and say, why not all lives matter town? They don't go in Koreatown and say, why not have an all Korean town?
Hold on a second. The KK...
But whenever black people have our own, we're the only group that always has to get attacked.
But
why BET?
You're not the
Why
only
this?
group. I
I'm
disagree
trying to
with
tell
you.
you.
And that being said, if Hispanics did say that all Hispanic lives matter, they wouldn't have had the president of the United States at the time backing them like African Americans.
What about
if Hispanics said Hispanic lives matter, no other group would have said anything. But whenever black people try to come together and do for self, it's always, not all, but some white people who feel threatened by that. And that threat is a guilty thing. Do I believe that every white person has guilt? No, and you shouldn't. You shouldn't have any guilt.
No, because I had nothing to do with slavery.
Every white person didn't, in today's time, nobody white owns slaves. So you don't have to feel guilty. Do you have a responsibility because you benefit off slavery? Absolutely. Every white person in this country as a whole is economically thriving off the backs of African people.
You're not going to like what I'm going to say here, but I'm going to say it anyway. I am not for affirmative action. And hold on, let me just explain. I am not for affirmative action. Here's why. Okay?
Explain what that looks like.
I want everyone to be treated as equals.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a white person, for example, and I'm using affirmative action as an example of what you're talking about, why I'm against it. If you have a white person that has an A- grade point average, who has all the curriculum and wants to get into Harvard, for example, and then you have an African American that has a B- average, that white person should get into that school, not that African American. That's the way I feel. And if you want everyone to be treated equally, then you have to abide by those same rules.
But you also have to give for all races. If it's an Asian and a Hispanic,
but not all races suffer what African people suffered.
Are they
Black
suffering
people,
now?
Yes, we are.
In what way?
Black people are at the bottom because of slavery. Being enslaved, you have to understand, when you take a people and you bring them from a foreign land, we call ourselves migrants. We didn't migrate. To migrate means you come by choice. We came by force. They stripped us of our knowledge of self, love, God, and respect. After 400 years of that, then you give us 100 years of Jim Crow second citizenship. We've only been free 50 years.
Okay, but let's
King
focus
died in
on
68. We've only been free for 50 years.
Instead of speaking in general terms, let's focus on what I'm talking about right now. If you're an African American in the Clark County School District, what stops you from getting straight A's if you work hard than if you're a white person? You think a white person has a better chance of getting good grades in high school than an African American? Where's the evidence of that?
A white person has a better condition around them to produce excellence in education.
So why should a white person suffer from that because maybe they have better parents or a better upbringing? Why should that white kid who works just as hard as that African-American kid suffer and not get into that school because the other person is a different race? To me, that doesn't make any sense.
But it's not about different race, though. It's about the fact that black people in this
country...
country...
all about race.
Black people in this country, because of slavery, because of Jim Crow, think about it. In the 50s and the 60s, when welfare was really prominent in black households, they had in fine print that a black man couldn't even be in the home. So when you say white people have better parents, our parents have been broken up. Our parents have been divided. You have to have a two-parent coalition to produce a positive child.
In the African American community, you know how many kids are born out of wedlock?
By choice.
Yeah, well, it's not a good
but
choice.
The choice was forced upon us. So even though it's a choice that we're making,
So the man
to make
has
choices,
sex with a woman, doesn't own up to it, isn't a father figure, and you're saying it's not his fault. He bears no responsibility.
He bears.
How about
everybody bears responsibility. What I'm saying
And this
is,
goes for all races, and in a lot of the cases, the government actually compensates women for having kids out of wedlock, and they're compensated pretty well in most cases.
And in that specific sense,
and that's by design.
Yeah,
They
but
used to have apartment complexes that said it was an all woman only complex. No man could be with the woman. This is in the 90s in Florida. It's by design. When white people and black people, when white soldiers and black soldiers came home from the war, white soldiers offered the GI Bill. Black soldiers was not. Black soldiers wasn't even offering a bank loan. So when white soldiers start buying homes for their families, getting counseling and therapy from the war, those homes are still being passed down. You have families who still own their grandfather's property. We don't have that same opportunity. So when white people succeed, it's because economically, socially, politically, you've been set up in a position to succeed. We have not. So I don't believe in being favoritism, but I also believe that black people have to have reparations. Reparations in education, reparations financially, reparations socially and politically, so we can not necessarily try to compete against you, but so we can get ahead of ourselves, so we can get in the game and have some stake.
let me just give out the number, and then I'm going to go to JD. I know JD wants to chime in on this. Let me just give out the number. if you want to be a part of this conversation, 702-257-5396. Again, that number to call, 702-257-5396. Minister Stretch Sanders joining us in studio. We're talking about race relations. We're talking about affirmative action. We're talking about the Black Hebrew Israelites. Isn't that a hate crime? Isn't that anti-Semitism? Isn't that racist? We're talking about that. And again, that number to call, 257-5396.
So I want to get back to the conversation about feeling guilty. If I'm Caucasian, obviously. I'm from Iowa. I am a mix of Dutch, German, English, and Scottish. My family at no point ever, they came from Michigan. At no point ever did they ever own slavery. Did they ever own slaves, or were they involved in slavery? Now that being said, if I came from, say, South Carolina or North Carolina or Virginia or Alabama or one of those states where slavery was very prevalent, and my family did own slaves and did have a plantation, I would feel guilty about that. I 100% would, but I don't, because I was not directly involved in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the guilt. It's not some of the guilt when Minister Farrakhan said there's a guilty thing. Once again, it's not saying all white people should have guilt. What he's speaking in, what I agree with, is a lot of times our white family are so threatened. I remember I wear a shirt that say support black businesses, and people will say, who are white, why not support all businesses? Why does me being proud of my culture, my heritage, why does that threaten you?
I don't have a problem with that.
You don't go in any Hispanic neighborhood and say, why they say brown power?
I agree. That to me is fear, to a degree.
It's very much so fear. And when we said Black Lives Matter, we never said no other life mattered. All we said was we're looking at history. We're not being prejudiced. Once again, prejudice is just for the fact.
But I'm sure
we're going off history.
But I'm sure,
and based on that history, black lives have never mattered. So when I say my arm hurt, my elbow hurt, why are you coming and saying your back hurt when in fact your back didn't hurt now to my elbow hurt? And when I look at your back don't even hurt.
You brought up Black Lives Matter, and I do think the majority of people that are in that movement are in it for the right reasons. I do believe that. But I would hope that you would agree with me when you hear chants talking about members of Black Lives Matter saying fry them like bacon, talking about police officers. It's wrong. That is not the right way to go about things, and that is not the right way to develop a better relationship between law enforcement and African Americans. Can you at least give me that there are some members of Black Lives Matter? And as I said, most of them I think are doing it for the right reasons. I really do. And I'm not one of those people that say, stop saying Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. I'm not one of those people. I get where you're coming from, and I understand the hardships. I really believe I do. And some of the reasons why, but again, it was formed based on Ferguson, based on a false tale of hands up, don't shoot. Now, does that not mean that there are travesties that take place between law enforcement, African Americans, and minorities? Absolutely. I know that stuff happens. And sadly, there is a small minority of police officers that are racist that commit crime. There's no question about that. There's bad apples in every group. But there are members of Black Lives Matter that are in it, in my opinion, for the wrong reasons, and they say hateful things, and violent things towards police officers. I would hope you wouldn't be for that.
What Dr. King said, he quoted Victor Hugo, and he said, wherever darkness is, crimes will be committed. And then he asked the question, who created that darkness? And I posed that question today. Who created that darkness? So when we hear people say, pigs like bacon, fry them in the pan, whatever it was.
Right.
Yes, you can say that's darkness, but who created that climate? 400 years, 500 years, 600 years of seeing us hung. Do you know over 1 million people from 1905 to 1940 were lynched on trees? So across the country. So
what does that have to do with law enforcement today?
What it has to do with is black people got to a point. The Black Lives Matter movement was at that boiling point where we said, I ain't taking this no more. I'm tired of us being oppressed. I'm tired of us being killed. Police officers were started as slave patrol. So the system of policing is very racist, and it derives out of slavery. And so black people who are awake and who are enlightened understand that this is the chickens coming home to roost. This is years of oppression in our community. So could the language have been better? Could the attitude could have been better? Depends on who you're talking to. But
you believe all these police officers are racist?
No, I believe that the system of policing is racist. There are officers who join the force in good intentions. I believe that, once again, you can have a racist institution and have those in that institution who may not be racist. You can have a capitalist institution and have those in an institution who are not capitalists. You can have a evil institution and those who are not evil in that institution. It can be by ignorance. It can be by just way of not really understanding. You're not ignorant enough where you do have knowledge, but you just don't really realize the role you play.
So is the government racist then too?
Of course.
So what? That being said, if police officers are racist, or not them in themselves, but the fact that they're police officers and they do what they do, if that is racist and the government is racist, what would you like to see happen? What's your ideal solution?
So my ideal solution is that black people, brown people, red people, and white people have to get to a point where we work in solidarity. White people have to understand that as our white family, us being your black family, you have to listen to us. And when we tell you that we're in pain, it's not for you to say, well, all communities are in pain, or we have the same opportunities when it's not true. You look at history, no other group on this country, on this soil, has been slaves but African people. No other group has endured the worst Holocaust in America than black people. So when we talk about our pain, we need white people to listen and to get that fear of us coming to power as it's going to be a threat towards you. It's never been about white people. Black people as a whole have never been violent. So when white people say, well, what I hear violence, I don't know why. That's your own psyche.
What do you mean
black people have never, as a whole, committed any violence towards what we don't have a history of violence against white people.
Then why is it that if
white people have a history of violence against us?
Okay, but you just said black people as a whole have never been violent. Then
towards white people.
Okay, well then what is your explanation for the fact that if you had to pick the one race, the majority race that are behind bars, it is African Americans? What is your explanation for that? Why is it that black on black crime is as high as it's ever been right now? Look at what is going on in Chicago. So if you're going to say that,
you missing what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, I'm just going by what you said.
You can't be. Black people have never committed a crime as a whole against white people. I said that, and then you say black on black crime. I said white people.
When I first heard you say that, that's not what you said. Maybe you're okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I would certainly say that there have been events that have taken place, murders, violent crimes, where African Americans have committed crimes against white people. That does happen. You wouldn't deny that, correct?
Of course. But I said whole. That's not as a whole. When I say as a whole, I'm talking about 400. We can break down 400 years of a track record of white people literally killing us for just being black. 50 years ago, if I would look you in your eye like I'm looking in your eye now, you can lynch me and get away with it. You don't have that same history of us doing that to you. So a lot of that is guilty. White people feel like
you really
they're
believe
afraid
that
if we ever, I'm telling you, it's a fact.
If I committed a crime against you right now and murdered you, you don't think anything would happen to me? You can't possibly believe that.
I'm not saying that. I'm talking about, when I'm trying to give you an example.
He's saying 50 years ago.
Okay,
50 years ago.
I can't speak for that.
In a different situation.
All right.
And there's numerous situations of white mobs lynching our people. So what I'm saying is, I believe in the beloved community. I believe in us coming together. I believe in us ending racism. But we have to do it with honesty and truth.
I get what you're saying. We got to take a break, and I want to open up the phone lines because it's always entertaining when people call in. Some people agree, some people disagree. I want to open up the phone lines right now. We're joined by the minister, Stretch Sanders. 702-257-5396 is the number to call in. Again, if you want to be a part of this conversation, phone lines are open at 257-5396. Also, we're going to talk to Stretch about the homeless ordinance. And, he was planning on shutting down Fremont Street. There's a change of plans now on MLK Day. We will talk to him about that. And, of course, hate in America today, the rise of hate crimes. That and much more. Be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take.
Well, look who's home. How was your day, hon?
Stressful, exhausting.
Lie down on me and we'll talk about it.
Oh, Purple Mattress, you know how to support me.
Hey, I'm just a mattress doing my job.
You're more than that. You're a Purple Mattress. Who cares about a bed with numbers when I have your Purple Grid to comfort my body's pressure points? And forget memory foam. Your non-toxic, hyper-elastic polymer minimizes heat, keeping me cool and comfortable the whole night through.
If you're happy, I'm happy. But you do have up to 100 days to return me for a full refund.
And give up the best night's sleep I've had since I learned to walk? No way. You're the only one I want to come home to. Purple Mattress.
You too can come home to a Purple Mattress by texting NAP to 84888. Take advantage of our Purple's Bundle Up for the holiday sale and get a free premium gift bundle when you buy a mattress by texting NAP to 84888. That's keyword NAP to 84888.
See purple.com for terms and conditions.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today, I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
The U.S. Embassy in Baghdad have used tear gas and stun grenades on a mob of Shiite militants enraged by U.S. airstrikes on an Iran-backed militia. The State Department says everyone inside is safe and there was no breach, but the Pentagon is deploying more security forces. President Trump says he'll travel to Beijing in the new year to start a new phase of trade talks with China. Here's Bob Costantini.
Having halted a planned tariff hike in the middle of December, President Trump ratcheting down the trade war, announcing on Twitter, I will be signing our very large and comprehensive Phase 1 trade deal with China on January 15th. The ceremony will take place at the White House. High-level representatives of China will be present.
It's a sad start to the year for family members planning funerals for 5 people who died when a small plane crashed in Lafayette, Louisiana. The plane with 6 on board was headed for Atlanta in the Peach Bowl when it went down. I'm Jan Johnson.
If you're one of the millions of them, it's time to check the roads in the KDON Traffic Center.
This report sponsored by the Exogen Temporal Scanner Thermometer. A traffic hazard to be aware of on Russell Road, Las Vegas Boulevard, just east of I-15. And also an accident reported Las Vegas Boulevard at Warm Springs Road, still active, but that one's near the clearing stage. I see some light slowing on I-15 northbound. This is going to be just north of the 215 Southern Beltway to about Tropicana. No heavy delays. Is your family ready for cold and flu season? The flu brings a fever, so be prepared with a thermometer you can trust. The Exogen Temporal Scanner, backed by more than 80 clinical studies. Visit exogen.com. John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
Join Coach Harvey Hyde and Chuck Hayes Saturday evenings from 9 to 10 p.m. for Trojan Football Report, presented by South Point Hotel and Casino, here on 101.5 FM and 720 AM KDWN, where Las Vegas comes to talk.
Hi, it's David Masters. Join me and my brother Alan for Advice Line, 10 to midnight Monday through Friday, right here on 720 KDON and on 101.5 FM. That's Advice Line, America's live radio counseling program. If you've got problems, we've got your answers. Monday through Friday, 10 to midnight.
I'm Jim Snyder.
And I'm Marie Mortera. We want to thank you for making News 3 your #1 choice for news.
Every weeknight at 11, you can count on us to have the big story of the day.
Plus breaking news that matters to you.
Jim Snyder and Marie Mortera. News 3 live at 11.
V is for victory, except on Saturdays when V is for veterans. That's Veterans Talk, The Forgotten Promise. Join us every Saturday from noon to 1.
Veterans Talk every Saturday at noon on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they're the right hire. Indeed will also give you the sticky frog, which will suddenly leap and stick to the face of the perfect hire. Okay, there's no sticky frog. But skills tests, that's a for sure.
See why independent research by Silk Road shows Indeed delivers 3 times more hires than any other job site. Post your next job at Indeed.com/hire and try skills tests for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us. Our in-studio guest is the minister, Stretch Sanders. By the way, check out our YouTube page. We are streaming live right now. The Vegas Take YouTube page, and you can see Stretch. He always dresses. I always like the way he dresses, but he's wearing a shirt today that says "Black men don't cheat." That's another statement I might disagree with a little bit. I think we all. I shouldn't say we all, but many people cheat of different races, different.
Wait, so if I'm a black man and I cheat, am I not a black man anymore? How does that work?
Have you ever cheated on a woman? Stretch, be honest.
I have not.
Okay, well you're a good man.
I'm glad to hear that.
Before I got saved, I never had a girlfriend, and so me being promiscuous, it wasn't technically cheating. And then when I got saved, I was with one woman, and then I married. I'm with one woman. So
well, I'm
never
happy
cheated,
to hear that.
But the statement though, a lot of the statements when it says like black people don't X, Y, and Z, basically it's to like there's a shirt that says black men raise their children, and those statements are so powerful because the narrative is that black men cheat like all black men. It's not true. And I think that, I like this shirt because it sends a positive message to black men that, if you are cheating, there's a movement that's trying to say, brother, it's okay to be faithful to your one woman. So
I'm happy to hear you say that. And something, getting into Barack Obama here for a second, because I didn't vote for Barack Obama, but I respect him a great deal. And the reason why I respect him has nothing to do with politics. It's the same thing I say about Donald Trump. The reason why I do not respect Donald Trump has nothing to do with politics. I respect Barack Obama a lot because he appears to me, at least, to be a very good husband, a very good father, a very good family man, very intelligent and articulate, and nobody gave him anything on a silver platter. He worked really hard to become, the president of the United States. I respect him a great deal for that, but my one criticism of Barack Obama, in my personal opinion, is that he did not help us in regards to race relations. I've always felt that way about Barack Obama. For example, in the Trayvon Martin situation, he said if I had a son, he would look like Trayvon. I remember one of my biggest criticism of him in 8 years was the way he handled the Ferguson situation. We know that Michael Brown was a thug. We know that Michael Brown was a criminal. He had just committed a felony, and then he attacked the police officer. The evidence is overwhelming. It proves that there was no hands up, don't shoot. The narrative was completely false. And before Barack Obama had all that information, he sent members of his staff, including Eric Holder, if I'm not mistaken, down to Michael Brown's funeral. He didn't do anything for that police officer after it turned out that police officer was completely innocent, just doing his job. And that police officer's life has been changed forever. So that was my biggest issue with Barack Obama. I don't think he helped race relations in this country. What would you say to that?
I think that it's easy to say that Barack Obama didn't help with race relations, but I mean, the country as a whole has never wanted to help with race relations. And Barack Obama getting in that seat, it was almost kind of like he had to play catch up.
You don't think Bernie Sanders? You're a Bernie Sanders.
Years.
You're a Bernie Sanders supporter. You don't think he's been a civil rights advocator his whole life? You don't think Bernie Sanders is the guy that's wanted to help race relations?
Yeah, but wanting to help and actually helping is two different things. I think that Barack Obama could want you said he didn't help. That doesn't mean he didn't want to help. So
I didn't say he didn't want to.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So just because Obama didn't doesn't mean that he did not have the desire to do so. I think there are plenty of people in the country who have the desire. But if you say, this has never happened, people say, well, no, so-and-so is trying. Yeah, I'm not saying nobody's trying.
Did you think he handled,
did you think,
okay, fair enough. I understand what you're saying. And I never insinuated that Obama didn't want to help race relations. I do think he did. I believe that.
Stretch, let me ask you this. We never really talked politics before, but you do support Bernie Sanders. Why have you not given your support to Deval Patrick or Kamala Harris or Cory Booker or any of those African-American candidates? Why Bernie Sanders over them?
Well, to me, when I look at candidates, I look at those who have principles and policies that speak for Black people. I think that Kamala and Cory Booker and the other gentlemen, I think they mean well. I think that Kamala, to me, is a little more, there's some disagreements. I think her mean well is debatable, and I'm not going to use this platform to put those grievances out.
Well,
But I
she's
think,
put a lot of African Americans in
but-
jail. I can tell you that.
She definitely has.
But I think that I just try to focus on those who are Black, who are for our people.
Yep.
And when I look for is a candidate who's speaking on our interests, and I understand that not all skin folk are kinfolk. And I'm not saying that against Kamala or Cory, but that's my focus.
Well, I can
is
appreciate
don't-
that.
I look at those who have policies, who are for reparations, who are for affordable housing in the Black community, those who are for helping
Bernie
Black
Sanders,
people to do for ourselves.
I agree with you, and you're right about that. Bernie Sanders, as far as policy making, his policies would certainly, as president, would certainly help the African American community. There's no question about
Is
that.
there anyone in the United States, could be an athlete, entertainer, business person, businesswoman, for example, that's African American, who you would think would do very well if they ran for president of the United States, like an Oprah, for example?
Well, me personally, I would not suggest Oprah because Oprah's in a different position. And so she's in a different position where, because she has the following and the support system that she has, if she speaks in the interest fully to Black people, that she would lose a lot of her support, because we live in a country where you just can't be Black and proud and be in politics. You can't be Black and proud and be in a position of power. I think she's very proud, but right now that pride has to be shown a different way. When she runs for president, Black people are going to demand that she speaks on reparations. We're going to demand that she be a voice for our community politically. And because of the support system that she has, Oprah did not become a millionaire by Black people. She became a millionaire by the white support.
Yeah, for the most
And
part.
so,
Yep. I agree with that.
And so she would be in a different position. So I would look for somebody who's mostly from the activist background, who can afford to speak that truth to power. And that's what I like about Bernie Sanders, is that he's in that position, you know, because he's an activist, and also because he's white. If a Black man was talking like Bernie, he wouldn't have got as far as he got. Because Bernie is white, he used his privilege in the right way, and I think he could do some great things if he's elected as president.
He is the minister, Stretch Sanders. I did promise we would be getting to some of your phone calls. If you want to chime in, now's the time to do it. That number is 702-257-5396. Once again, that number is 257-5396. I will add this about Barack Obama. When he was president, food stamps were at an all-time high. Welfare was at an all-time high. That is certainly not a good thing, and I'm not putting all the responsibility on Barack Obama for that reason, but I think it is important to note that.
And I think that's actually a vicious cycle to get more Democratic votes.
Why don't we get to the phone calls? Again, that number, 257-5396. Let's go to Linda. Linda, you're on with Stretch. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning, Minister Stretch.
Good morning, Ms. Linda. How are you?
I'm good. Happy New Year. Yeah, I need to chime in. I just tuned in, so I might be not quite on point with what you guys are talking about previous to this, but regarding Barack Obama, I take very serious issue with the fact that he did not help African Americans in any way. I believe that he caused us a lot of harm. I heard you guys mention the Ferguson riots.
Yes.
You know, I hope everyone is aware that during the Ferguson riots, Obama actually increased the 1033 program, supplying military weapons to Black communities. That's one of the issues. He also bombed Africa, destroyed Libya, killed Gaddafi. Talk about food stamps. He cut food stamps by, $8.7 billion. He cut Social Security, cost of living allowance to zero for 3 years. He signed NDAA 2012 into law, authorizing the detention of indefinite detention of American citizens. He did a lot of harm to the Black community. So no, I do not support him or anyone like him.
You made some very valid points there. I want you to hang on the line, and I want Stretch to respond to that, because I think Stretch will disagree with you. I tend to agree with you, Linda. I think Obama's a good man, but I agree with you. You very eloquently made your points. Stretch, I want you to respond to that.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say I disagree with her. I think that there are some disagreements. I think that my focus is this. I try not to criticize Black people too much that don't do what we expect, because I understand that you have to deal with the root, not the fruit. And Obama, in the position that he was in, like I said, he was elected but also selected. And just because you have a black face in a high place does not mean that you're going to be Superman. Because at the end of the day, his counterparts, the system he's a part of, is as racist and is as bigot as the Ku Klux Klan. And so he only could do so much. Doesn't make it right. I think he's definitely worthy of criticism.
You know that a lot of people would
but
take issue to that. You're saying that the government is similar to the Ku Klux Klan.
it's as racist as the Ku Klux Klan.
You really believe that? I'm sad to hear you say that, because while there are racist people out there, you're telling me that you believe our government and the United States of America and the entities that run this country, you're making similarities to a group of people, if they had it their way, that would hang all Jews and African Americans. You realize that's a very serious thing that you're saying.
I realize that I understand how I'm saying it, and I realize that at the end of the day, every individual in the American government is racist? No, and I think that that's what you choose to hear. I think at the end of the day, I'm speaking generally, I'm speaking systemically. This country was founded off racism. So if something is founded off something, that means the foundation is racist.
Linda, go ahead and respond to
unless
that.
you eradicate that foundation, it's not gonna just go away. So yes, the country is racist, but at the end of the day, there's also those who are within the country, the John Lewises, and the list goes on and on, who are freedom fighters, black, white, brown, red, and yellow,
And
who
very
are,
sad.
who are trying to eradicate racism. But I understand that by me saying America is racist, it's not me being anti-America. I love America enough to criticize America. And when you can hold somebody accountable, that's love. If you got a booger in your nose and I don't tell you, I don't love you as a brother. But if I say, brother, you got something in your nose, that means that I love you enough to not have you walk around and embarrass yourself.
I certainly understand what you're saying, but if I have a booger in my nose, I hope you wouldn't compare me to David Duke or the Ku Klux Klan. Linda, go ahead and respond to that.
I think that where he said he would not, I don't know your exact words, but you said something like criticize the black man. I would hold him even more accountable because I'm black. And so, yeah, I have friends, that agree with Minister Stretch that we should not, criticize the brother. I disagree with that 100%. The brother did not behave like a brother. And I think, as Stretch said, not all skin folk are kinfolk. But Obama is definitely not kinfolk. But the point being is that because, in my opinion, I think it's the systemic racism in American domestic and foreign policy. It's not the individuals. It's in the policy. It's like in the legal system. Today, on the 26th, we saw a 70-year-old woman. The police went into her house without a warrant, without a search warrant. They tased her 3 times, threw her to the ground, put their knee in her back, and they're not going to face any charges for that.
That's horrible.
We see Ayanna Jones was murdered. They brought 7 years old. They broke in her house during a no-knock raid. The cops who killed her are back on duty.
Yeah, which is horrible.
So, yes, there is systemic racism. I would not say it's the end of any individual.
Linda,
But the policy, yes, sir.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, go ahead, finish your thought, and we'll go ahead.
I think I pretty much did finish it, but mostly just to emphasize that is where I believe we as black people are incorrect by saying, let's not criticize the
No, you have to.
Well, I would say, my position.
Wrong. He was way more wrong than Trump. He bombed more countries than Trump. He killed more people than Trump.
That's an interesting.
We're not saying, let's compare that. No, black people don't talk about the countries that Obama bombed. They don't talk about the million black and brown people he killed in the Middle East and Africa because they don't want to criticize the brother.
Linda makes some valid points there, and thank you for the call, Linda. By the way, the number is 702-257-5396. Again, that number 257-5396. Go ahead, Stretch.
So I think that everyone is worthy of criticism. I'm not saying don't criticize them. What I'm saying is, to me, I just don't have the energy to put in dealing with the fruit. I really deal with the root. And my whole position is that Obama was put in that position. And I agree. Obama did minimal for black people, and he has to be held accountable for that. But we also have to understand, too, the position that he was in and those who tied his hand behind his back. And so when you understand that, I don't care what position you get in, as long as you are part of a system that is predominantly ran by white supremacy, as a black person, you can only do so much. And that's locally, and that's also nationally. And so when we get in these positions and we don't see us saying black power and power to the people, you have to understand that they can't do that. And if they do that, they can't be in that position. You cannot be pro-black and pro-country at the same time as an elected official. And so that's why activists have a little more leeway, because we can say things without being forced to get cut off from funding and get cut off from campaign support. But when you are under Barack Obama, the highest position in the land, he only can do so much. So I'm not saying don't criticize him, but I also think, too, I would rather deal with what produced him and what caused him to not be what we wanted, opposed to spend times talking about he was harmful to the black community. There's so many things that was harmful to the black community.
Of course.
And Barack Obama is not one of those things.
I tend to, for the most part, agree with what you're saying. I want to talk a little bit more about what you thought in saying the word scared. Well, white people are scared. African Americans taking over and doing to white people what white people did to African Americans years ago with slavery. I certainly don't feel that way. I'm not scared, but I will say this: if I go into an extremely dangerous neighborhood, or let's call it the hood, where there's a lot of crime, and I'm obviously whiter than white, as you can see, and I'm walking around in a neighborhood like that has a high crime rate, and I'm walking by myself, I'm scared. And the reason why I'm scared is because I feel like, I could be singled out for the color of my skin. Does that make me racist? No, I don't think it makes me racist, but I certainly would be in fear of my safety. And there are neighborhoods across the country where I'm sure you would feel uncomfortable walking around by yourself. Maybe it's a community that you wouldn't feel safe. I don't know. It's kind of like, remember the movie The Bronx Tale? And that's kind of like what I'm talking about here. Yes, I would be scared walking around in a neighborhood like that.
And when I say scared, I'm not speaking in that context. I mean, that's just natural. Anybody who's in a vulnerable position like that where danger can take place, you're going to be afraid. Right. I'm speaking in terms of whenever black people talk about doing for self, we got to keep in mind, J. Edgar Hoover said his goal, this is the director of the FBI, his goal was to eliminate, assassinate, and eradicate black people from having a black messiah. Because he feared that anybody that is willing enough to step out there courageously and organize us to come together, he feared that. My position is, why did he fear that? It's a guilty thing. I'm not saying every white person is guilty. Of course not, and you shouldn't be. Is every white person racist? Of course not. Is every institution? Yes. And there's numerous people who are trying to eradicate that.
I wouldn't say
but
that.
At the end of the day, we all have a responsibility, especially those who are white, to try to use your platform and your privilege to eliminate racism. Because the country is in favor of you,
You think
not me.
every institution in this country is racist? Every institution?
Yes.
College, taxes, police,
every
government.
institution is pro-white.
Well,
and they're anti-black. There's nothing wrong with being pro. Being pro don't make you anti. But the way that proness is being described, it's being where they're only favoring one group and never looking at another group based on our color. So
I would argue the J. Edgar Hoover situation that you just discussed, I think that's more based on inferiority. I don't think that that's a guilt thing. I think that he just felt potentially inferior to African Americans under those circumstances.
A lot of white people feel that way.
When Brian is in a neighborhood like he just described, and he is worried for his own safety, is that racism or is that self-preservation?
Once again, walking in the neighborhood, if I was Brian, I would feel the same way. So I think that.
But he's not being racist by feeling that way.
No, because at the end of the day, if Brian walks into a white, now Brian only feels that way in black neighborhoods, not white neighborhoods. There's white neighborhoods that's crime.
Absolutely.
We say black on black crime. Every community kills their own. You kill what you're around.
Absolutely.
So at the end of the day, what I say is, I'm speaking in terms when Minister Farrakhan was on Donahue, and he said he was talking about encouraging and enlightening and lifting up black people, and people was in the audience and said, well, it seems like you just want an all black society. Why don't you look at anybody else? He said, my ministry is focused on black people. Excuse me. And there's nothing wrong with that. Excuse me. I think that's, once again, you have to ask yourself, as a white person, why are you threatened? Why are you intimidated about black people and loving and encouraging each other? White people say, well, black on black crime. Okay, but you got black people out here who are trying to eliminate that. The reason why black on black crime exists is because there's a lack of self-love.
Do you think there's...
Campaign is black. I want for my brother what I want for myself. So because I'm so in love with Stretch, I won't hurt Campaign because I have self-love.
But
and
not every African-American is like you.
But you have plenty of African-Americans like me.
I didn't say there weren't plenty, but there are some that are not like that.
Because they don't have self-love and self-knowledge.
Yeah, well, I agree.
No, that's why, but then when we try to produce self-love and self-knowledge, we get told that we're prejudiced and that we're anti and why not all lives. Even the term Black Lives Matter was one of the most revolutionary, self-loving terms. And out of nowhere, white people come, well, all lives matter. Why can't we love ourselves? Why can't we be pro-us?
No, I understand that, so long as nobody is condoning violence or hate towards other groups. 257-5396.
Black people as a whole have never condoned violence towards another group.
Fry them like bacon in regards to police officers.
That's a small group of people. But
they are people. But they are people.
That's a small group.
But it's still a group.
I mean, it's It's a million plus.
But I said black people as a whole. I keep saying whole, and then you keep bringing up individuals.
Well, I mean,
so I could name as a whole for white groups. You can't name as a whole for black people. I can name institutions. I can name programs. I can name numerous organizations of white people who have implemented violence in our communities. You can't do the same for black people.
There are always going to be
not,
violent groups and violent people
absolutely,
out there.
Right. But what white people have to understand is you have to own it. Right. It can't always be a response of where there's always, and that's the problem I think the white community has, is that they do more you're listening to respond opposed to listening to understand.
Let's try to squeeze in a few phone calls here because we have some people who have been waiting patiently on hold at 257-5396. That number again, 702-257-5396. Let's go to Michael. Michael, you're on with the Minister Stretch Sanders. How are you?
Hey, what's up, Michael?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
I just wanted to speak on the topic of the Black Hebrew Israelites.
Yes.
The Hebrew Israelites isn't a hate group. The Hebrew Israelites is a people that are direct bloodline descendants of the biblical Hebrew Israelites who just so happen to be black. If people would really do in-depth reading, researching, and studying of the Hebrew Israelites through biblical text, they would understand that it's not a group of people that hate. There are people that hate inside the group, just like with KKK.
I agree.
KKK doesn't represent who the Christians are, but there are people inside Christianity that do hate other people, just as well as with the Hebrew Israelites.
And never did I say that this entire group of people want to kill innocent people or harm people. But I will say this: the man who walked into that rabbi's home with a machete certainly called himself one of the black Hebrew Israelites. So you would have to say that there are members of these people that call themselves black Hebrew Israelites that are hateful people that want to harm innocent people.
Oh, most definitely. There's hate in each and every group.
Right.
But to just say all black Hebrew Israelites are a hate group, that's completely false.
Well, I think the KKK.
It's based on ignorance.
I think the KKK is a hate group. I don't think you would call me ignorant for that. That is a completely hatred group of people.
And I agree with Michael. I think that's something that's my whole position, is that I will never say all of anything. All white people aren't racist. All white people aren't everything. Any group, there's good and bad in anything, right? Hitler was a Christian. Dr. King was a Christian. Look at the work they produced. Osama bin Laden was a Muslim. Malcolm X was a Muslim. Look at the work they produced. So within any group, you're going to have your bad apples. And so the Hebrew Israelites, those individuals who did that act, was that a hate crime? Yes. But it has nothing to do with the masses of Hebrew Israelites. Just like the people don't realize the Ku Klux Klan, they call themselves a Christian organization.
Well, that's absurd.
That doesn't represent Christianity.
No, that's absurd. Let me ask you this, because we don't have much more time left here. We're approaching 2020. As I said, the last few years, hate crimes are on the rise. I do believe we are divided as a country more than we've ever been, certainly politically. Maybe racial divide. It's certainly probably the worst I've seen in my lifetime, and I'm 39 years old. I wasn't around during slavery, thank God. That would have been a tough time. But let me ask you this: we're now approaching.
You think it's the worst? Really?
Yes, I do.
I think the political divide is much worse than the racial divide at this point.
I think they're both very bad. Let's put it that way. But we only have 2 minutes left here, so let me. And yes, I do. I think they're both pretty bad. I don't want to say one's worse or better, but they're both bad. We only have about a minute here, so I want to give you an opportunity. What do you want to see happen here in 2020?
That's a broad statement. I want to see us get to a point where we can listen to learn. I want to see us get to a point where every race can understand that we all have been through something, but there are races who have been through worse. And you have to listen to that so you can understand why they say what they say, why they move what they move. I believe in the beloved community. I believe in the human family uniting, but not in a colorblind society, because I'm proud of my color. I don't want anybody to not see my color. But in a real, I love you for who you are society. That means race and gender. And I think the only way we can get to that is having honest conversations.
And that's what I think
agreeing
we
to
do.
disagree.
Yeah.
And just being willing to learn enough to take what was put on the table and build off it. And so I'm excited for 2020. I think that we are in good times. The masses of people are waking up to the truth. And I'm just fortunate. And I just thank God for being able to continue to put a message out of truth, justice, and equality.
Yeah, and I've
for all
always,
people.
and we only have about a minute here, but I've always said this about you. I know that your heart is in the right place and you care about people. And that is why we invite you on this show every week, because we're not always going to agree on everything, right? But I think it's important to have these types of, I don't know if you want to call them debates, discussions, what have you. And I agree with you. It is important to listen to one another, so long as we don't, say things that are racist or ignorant or things that just make no sense. But I want to thank you for coming on the show once again. The hour goes by so fast.
Yes, it does.
So I hope you have a fantastic New Year's Eve tonight. Please be safe out there, Stretch. Yes, that's right. It is New Year's Eve tonight, and always appreciate it when you take some time to come in. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot, Stretch.
Yeah, appreciate
Absolutely.
it. All right, we're going to switch it up a little bit. This is going to be a lot of fun, right? The Violator, one of the most famous Raiders fans, is going to be coming up on our show next, and he's going to tell us why he does not plan on supporting the team anymore. The Violator coming up next on the Vegas Take.
If you're one of the millions of Americans who owes back taxes, if you get nervous when the mail comes because you might get a letter from the IRS, then you've heard. Their enforcement agents are cracking down this year and can garnish your paycheck, levy your bank accounts. Even your home or business could be at risk over unpaid taxes. It's all true, but it's also true there's a way out. It's called the Fresh Start Initiative, an important government program for tax debt assistance. The award-winning experts at Optima Tax Relief will fight to get you the best deal possible, protecting your paycheck and your assets from IRS collections. But don't delay, because the IRS is tacking on interest and hefty penalties every single day. So don't wait until it's too late. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-375-2577. 800-375-2577. 800-375-2577.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
My husband drinks with friends after work. He has a couple of drinks at home with dinner, and a few more while we watch TV. A counselor recommended I try Al-Anon family groups. I didn't want to go to Al-Anon, but I'm sure glad I did. Is someone's drinking breaking your heart? You might be surprised at what you can learn at an Al-Anon family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-AL-ANON or go to alanon.org.
At the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Federal Student Aid, we provide more than $150 billion each year in grants, loans, and work-study funds. Learn more at studentaid.gov.
Whoa! There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Your home for Sean Hannity, KDWN Las Vegas, KKLZ HD2 Las Vegas, a Beasley Media Group station.
Gas and grenades, trade signing. I'm Jan Johnson. Security teams outside the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad have used tear gas and stun grenades to push back a furious anti-American demonstration. And correspondent Linda Kenyon tells us Defense Secretary Mark Esper is ordering up reinforcements.
Secretary Esper says the move comes after demonstrators breached the gates of the embassy and set fire to part of the property. In a statement, he says, "We have taken appropriate force protection actions to ensure the safety of American citizens, military personnel, and diplomats in the country, and to ensure our right of self-defense." Multiple reports say about 100 Marines who are already in the region will be sent to the compound. In addition, 2 U.S. Apache helicopters flew over the embassy in a show of force. Thousands of demonstrators and supporters of an Iran-backed militia stormed the U.S. Embassy compound in Baghdad after U.S. airstrikes on that militia over the weekend. Linda Kenyon, Washington.
President Trump says he'll travel to Beijing in the new year to start a new phase of trade talks with China, announcing on Twitter that he'll sign phase 1 of the agreement on January 15th at the White House. As the new year marches across the globe, correspondent Simon Cullen says Sydney, Australia put on its annual New Year's fireworks display, despite the wildfires that threaten seaside towns and forced thousands to flee to the beaches.
Sydney has applied for and been granted an exemption, but the thick smoke that's in the air, it's just an eerie reminder that this bushfire crisis is far from over.
Whether it's New York for the ball drop or Bethlehem, Pennsylvania for the fall of the Peeps chick, meteorologist Jennifer Gray says New Year's Eve weather's not too bad out there.
Weather's actually going to be pretty nice across much of the country. So we actually have really nice weather in Times Square right now. It is chilly across the northern tier of the country, but nice mild weather across much of the south.
Perfect for the moon pie drop in Mobile. I'm Jan Johnson.
It's time to check the roads in the KDON Traffic Center.
This report sponsored by the Exogen Temporal Scanner Thermometer, a traffic hazard to be aware of on Russell Road, Las Vegas Boulevard, just east of I-15, And also an accident reported Las Vegas Boulevard at Warm Springs Road. Still active, but that one's near the clearing stage. I see some light slowing on I-15 northbound. This is going to be just north of the 215 Southern Beltway to about Tropicana. No heavy delays. Is your family ready for cold and flu season? The flu brings a fever, so be prepared with a thermometer you can trust. The Exergen Temporal Scanner, backed by more than 80 clinical studies. Visit exergen.com. John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
This holiday season, get the rest you deserve with Helix Sleep. Helix makes personalized mattresses to fit your unique body type and sleep preferences and give you the best sleep of your life. Go to helixsleep.com and get up to $200 off during their holiday sale.
John Schaefer here for my friends at New Mail Medical. You know, I've been telling you about them for a while now, and here's why. Because they are the innovators. You know, anytime you have an original idea, an original concept, you have somebody that comes along and they see the success of that original concept, then they try and make it their own, and unfortunately, it's usually just a cheap imitation. Well, not with New Mail Medical, because they are the ones who got out in front of this. Testosterone replacement, ED treatments, they're the ones who've been leading the way in the nation for sexual health procedures, and they've been providing tens of thousands of men in the Las Vegas area alone for the past 7 years with that help. New Mail Medical starts with your first visit, and they are going to be there with you every step of the way. After I went there for my first visit, I felt comfortable and relaxed knowing they could help guide me through any issue I had. NewMail.com. That's NUMALE.com. 702-505-4414. That's the number. Don't see a cheap imitation. Go to the originators. NewMail.com. 702-505-4414.
Travis Scribner, managing partner of Westpac Wealth Partners, interviews some of the most successful business owners for insight into what makes both them and their business run. Tune in every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. on 101.5 FM, 720 a.m. KDON, or podcasts on iTunes.
I'm Jim Snyder.
And I'm Marie Mortera. We want to thank you for making News 3 your #1 choice for news.
Every weeknight at 11, you can count on us to have the big story of the day.
Plus breaking news that matters to you.
Jim Snyder and Marie Mortera. News 3 live at 11.
101.5 FM, 720 AM. The talk of Las Vegas. Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp Shapiro. Man, it is amazing. We are approaching just about 13 hours away from 2020. It's amazing how this year has just flown by. And what I mean by that from a football perspective is the Raiders are coming to town. They have played their last game of the season. The next NFL game they play will be in Las Vegas. It's incredible. The guy we have with us on the line right now, he is probably known as one of the most outlandish of all sports fans on the planet. His real name is Wayne Mabry, but he's better known as the Violator. One of the most outlandish of, Motley Crue characters, I guess you could call him, from the black hole. He has been following as one of the biggest Raiders fans for over 25 years. And, if you Google this guy and you see what his getup is, if you haven't already seen him on television, it's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome. He's a retired 63-year-old union carpenter. And, he paints his face, the red and black. Yeah, did I say red and black? Did I really say that?
Yeah,
no,
you did.
There's no red in there.
You said red and black.
Yeah, there's no red in there. But anyway,
Freudian slip.
Wayne Mabry, known as the Violator, is joining us right now live on the line. Mr. Violator, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
What's up?
Good morning. Thanks for having me on, guys. A pleasure.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. So I want to start with obviously the big first question. You've made comments that you're not going to be going to the games in Las Vegas. But before we get to that, tell me when you got started this, right? Because you've been one of the biggest fans of the Raiders for, 25 plus years. How did this all get started, Violator?
Well, this whole therapy session that I'm going through started in 1991 at the LA Coliseum, just to kind of get the crowd more emotionally involved with the game. Not sitting on their hands so much, being the LA crew. So I felt they needed some of that college atmosphere. So I just figured I've got this alter ego in my head, my kindred spirit, I call him.
Uh-huh.
And I just released him in 91. So the rest is history. 28 years later, here we are.
What is your fondest memory in the 28 years you've been doing this? Like one or two moments that you say, wow, that moment I will never forget for the rest of my life.
The first one was actually meeting Al Davis and Jim Otto at the LA Coliseum.
Mm-hmm.
And Ursher, friend of mine who knew what Al, they came up to go up to their boxes. He says, look, if you want to meet the man, stay right here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so just meeting them face to face and them looking at me like, what the hell is this? Was one of those moments. The second one was getting inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2000 in Canton. Awesome moment. You could never dreamt it as a fan. At least I couldn't, you know, because it wasn't about that with me. It was just about bringing that raw emotion to the football game. And that's what I still feel football is about.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Okay. So for somebody that has never seen what you have looked like at a Raiders game, can you please describe it to us? Because you'll probably do a better job of it than I do.
You want to describe what he looks like?
No, what
Violator is he's like a pit bull let off his leash, leather skull cap, official shoulder pads with 6 spikes. I call up my 6-pack, leather pants, rock boots. What else? I've got metal gauntlets on to protect me from anybody that gets too close to my area. Biker gloves, and that's pretty much it.
I love it, man.
The face paint, which is part of the ritual of getting ready for war.
I absolutely love it. Okay, so now I got to ask you some sad questions here. What went through your mind the first time you heard officially that the Raiders were moving to Las Vegas?
Like a punch in the gut. And I'm really speaking of areas lower than that, but that was the first reaction because, I had dealt with them moving from Oakland to LA, which is like a dream come true. And then they left LA and went back. And so for 2 weeks after they went back to Oakland, I could even function. So I was just like a zombie walking around at work and at home till I pulled my head out of my butt, so to speak, and figured, well, where this team goes, I got to go too.
If you had a chance to sit down with Davis, the owner of the team, what would you say to him right now?
There wouldn't be a whole lot of dialogue to really say to him that he doesn't already know, other than, the years that I put in stomping the yard. That's one of my phrases. And how deep that passion with the fans flows with us. It's not something that we hang up when the football season is over. This is sort of a lifestyle for us that we choose to follow. And we do it with everything that we've got. You're talking generations down. I know personally 4 or 5 generations of fans, that have just given their life's blood for it.
Sure.
We have this saying, we bleed silver and black.
No question. Listen, in a way, I sort of understand where you're coming from. And the reason why I say that is, I was a big hockey fan growing up with my dad, and we grew up in Hartford, Connecticut. And I don't know if you recall or remember the franchise, the Hartford Whalers. So I would go to games. Yeah, and I would go to games with my dad. God, we loved it. We had so much passion. Now, I was a young kid. I certainly didn't dress up in the amazing costumes that you dressed up in, but I was still a huge fan. And I remember when we heard that the Hartford Whalers were leaving town to become the Carolina Hurricanes, I felt that same pain that you felt in a way, and it kind of put a bad taste in my mouth, and I never really followed hockey again until we got the Las Vegas Golden Knights. And now all of a sudden I'm an NHL fan again. So it brings me to my next question to you. You were asked, is this the last Oakland game that you're going to go to? Are you going to be traveling to Las Vegas, and are you going to remain a Raiders fan? And tell us your response to that.
What I actually said to everybody who posed that question to me, what my answer was that this was my last shift, which I call I'm clocked in when we go inside the stadium. That's called clocked in. I worked my last shift stomping the yard in Oakland. So I want to clarify this today if I could.
Sure.
So to put that notion to rest, I will be in Vegas.
Oh, you will?
Oh, good.
Okay, so I don't think you've really cleared that up to anyone. No. So I think, are we the first people that you're telling that to?
This is the first people on public radio that I'm trying to clear this up. Forget the notion of what you heard or read. It was a misprint or a misinterpretation of what I meant. My last shift in Oakland was that last game there. So I will stump the yard in Oakland no longer. I look forward to stumping the yard in Las Vegas.
Well, first of all, let me just say that is fantastic news. I am so glad that you're going to be going to games in Oakland or in Vegas. I cannot wait to meet you because you are certainly one of the most recognizable and outlandish fans in all of sports. And I'm sure Vegas will gladly have you here with open arms. There's no question.
Absolutely. Have you gotten a chance to look at the new, we'll call it, I mean, it kind of looks like the Death Star. I mean, it's a nice, sleek, black stadium. Have you gotten a chance to look at the new stadium, and how excited are you about that?
I've been up there a few times and seen it in different stages of development. Now, as a construction guy, it fits us to a T, just the whole design of it. Now, Death Star, if that's the name that it ends up being called, which I doubt seriously, but, we, the fans, we can name stuff and make it stick because that's how we feel about it.
Right.
But I think Al smiling down that was his dream, as long as I can remember back, having his own facility. So it's a dream come true. My only thing is that I hate that it had to happen outside of California. But being a diehard, and I'm speaking to all those that profess to be diehards, we go where that team goes.
Now, I want to ask you a little bit about this because, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but, like many of us, you live on a fixed income, right? You're retired. So let me ask you, if you don't mind, how are you going to be able to afford season tickets? Because my understanding, it is going to be a huge spike increase, no pun intended there, to what you were paying before, right? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Financially, yes, you hit that on the head. I cannot afford the tickets, but through my years of dedication, and I've done my praying on it, I just have it in my heart that things are going to work out, and I will still be able to attend at least some of the games.
Has anybody reached out to you? I mean, like people within the organization saying, "Listen, Violator, you're such a special part of our group. We'll help you out. Let's work." I mean, has anybody reached out to you at all?
That has not happened.
See, that's ridiculous.
And I'm not really sitting here, like hanging on the Christmas ornament, waiting for that to happen.
Right.
But my faith, and my spiritual faith just leads me to believe that I have not gone this far just to fall off the cliff.
So let me ask you this.
I think someone will reach out to you, Violator. I think it's going to happen at some point soon.
What if somebody was willing to sponsor you in some fashion? Like maybe it was a car dealership, a local car dealership, or maybe a radio station. Would you be willing to change your getup just in the least a little bit? Would you be willing to do that?
Hang on. I like that whole thing you said about sponsorship. I'm wide open for that. But changing up who I am, we'd have to really discuss that in long details.
I think you'd actually be the first fan sponsored by a major company, so that would kind of be a revolutionary move for you.
Why not let it be a first time for anything? My dream right now, I'm going to put this out on the air. My dream now is to do what John Madden did, have my own custom RV, and take my act, so to speak, across the country to all the other stadiums.
Oh, that's actually a good idea.
I like that idea.
So if one of those nice RV companies up there in Vegas wants to do that, hey, I'm ready for it.
You know what? We will gladly try to help you out in regards to that, because certainly I think you deserve it. Your dedication to this team is incredible. So let's talk a little bit about your Raiders for a second, just in general terms. Obviously a disappointing season this year. What do you make of John Gruden's tenure thus far? Do you agree with the 10-year, $100 million contract? Do you think that Derek Carr is the guy that could lead them to the promised land? Because I've said it time and time again, I don't think he's an elite quarterback, and I don't think he's the kind of guy that can get the Raiders to a Super Bowl. What do you say to that?
Okay. As far as Gruden and his pay scale, that's way above my pay grade. I wish I was in his shoes, so to speak. I like Gruden's attitude. When he was there with us the first time, he brings that grit and that grinding mentality, which is what football was made around. Now, everybody says, the game has changed, blah, blah, blah. It's different. You're like a throwback fan. You're too ferocious. It's entertainment. It can be all of that, but it's still football. Until you draw it up different, then don't talk to me about, the game has changed. Now, as far as Derek Carr, that's the best we've got since Rich Gannon. I'm going to ride it with him until somebody comes and beats him out. Now, football being a team game, it's no one superstar quarterback that's going to win any championship by himself. It is a team sport, and until you get your heads wrapped around that, all the pieces have to work in unison with each other. That's what makes championship football teams. And I see that coming if they keep putting these youngsters together with that right mindset.
Yeah, I think that Mike Mayock has done an unbelievable job, especially with this last rookie class. I mean, I don't know, most people don't know this, but Max Crosby actually had as many sacks, more tackles for loss, more tackles and forced fumbles than Nick Bosa, the number two pick in the draft. And Jonathan Abrams coming up. Obviously, Josh Jacobs had a big year. Cleveland Farrell. How do you think they're going to draft this year with their 12th or 19th pick, the position-wise?
Me personally,
yeah,
I see our Achilles heel being our defense. We need to show up that linebacking core, and you can tell that's my favorite position.
Right.
We need to show that up because we haven't really had any heavy hitters back there since Matt Millen, Greg Beaker back in those days. You know, we need guys like that who are smart. And like I want to say this, when the league suspended our alpha dog, which was Burfitt, they knew that was going to cut off your big toe off your foot, so to speak.
Right.
You're going to be out of balance the whole time. And anybody that watched the game and just watching it for the sport itself could see that all this talent that we had amassed was still lost because they didn't have that leadership voice, a la Charles Woodson back there in his last season.
Mm-hmm.
You know, keeping the guys in proper positions and not looking like Keystone Cops running around.
Right. A Violator, you cleared something up that you are still going to support the team and you plan on going to games here in Vegas. You didn't say you're going to go to all the games or be a season ticket holder, but you're still going to go to games. So I want to clear something. Maybe you could clear this up with us. You've suggested that you might have to sell your home near Riverside, California, and you might have to sell all of your body armor to be able to afford a seat license and season tickets here. Is that true? And are you still considering selling your home to be able to go to games here?
Will never sell my home, brother, because this was a second blessing for me. Well, actually, my third home. This is my retirement spot. This is where I'll be if you want to find me. Come get some.
You're a big guy.
Yes,
I'm a little.
The game is an integral part of my life, but like I said, unless somebody just comes out of the woodwork who feels that, hey, this guy deserves this or that, I can't even speak in those terms, but I would not ever sell my home to follow a team.
Do you know any other fans like you that are in similar financial situations that you've had conversations with?
There are a few, yes, but you know, they may not want to put that out there. Since I was asked directly by you guys and others, I'm just gonna, you know, I call it like I see it.
Mm-hmm.
So my home is first.
No, of course.
You know,
of course.
That team, I'm gonna, with every breath, strength, and breath in me, I will try to find a way to support them.
Right.
Because this is a lifetime commitment from me.
Violator, do you have any kids?
Yes, I have. All my kids are grown.
So when your kids see you, like, I don't know, go back 15, 20 years ago, when your kids see you on national television and their dad is wearing all that getup, what do they say to you? Like, how did they react to that growing up?
They're used to it because, you know, before my divorce back in the day, they were right there in the stands with me.
Oh, that's awesome.
And, you know, painted up too.
That's cool. I love that, man. I love that. Listen, Violator, you are quite the character, my friend, and I really look forward to meeting you when you come to Vegas. I'm really happy to hear that you're going to still be going to games out here, and we'd love to have you in studio one of these days when you get out here to Las Vegas. We'll keep in touch with you. Thank you so much for being so honest and forthcoming. We appreciate your time, and you certainly are one of the most famous super fans out there, and we appreciate you very much. Thank you so much for coming on.
Well, appreciate you guys having me on, and look, hold a seat for me in the studio. I plan on being there in full getup. Let's make that happen.
I cannot wait for that to happen. We are going to make that happen.
Absolutely.
Even though I might be a little bit intimidated, I still...
No, he's going to be a lot of intimidated. He may wet himself.
Violator, thank you so much for your time, my friend. Can't wait to meet you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
My pleasure, guys, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you, too. We broke a little bit of news here on the Vegas Take. The Violator is still going to be covering, following the Raiders. He is still going to be going to Las Vegas. He's still going to be going to games. And I think we all should be very happy to hear that, because the Raiders, look, just like most professional franchises, right? They have some pretty big-time fans out there that have supported
how
the
many
team.
times have NFL Films or in any of those publications, when they show Raiders, when they show the Raiders Stadium, the Raiders fans, when I've seen the Violator myself at least 40 or 50 times.
Oh, God, they show him on TV all the time.
Since I was like 10 years old.
Yeah,
for a long time it's been happening.
He's a very famous super
Absolutely.
fan, and his getup is awesome. Listen, I love to talk to fans like that, because you could hear the passion, and you could see how much, it hurt him that the team was leaving. But the fact that he's still going to be around the franchise, for God's sakes, Davis, can you please reach out to this guy? Reach out to some of those fans in the Black Hole. Help them get season tickets. You're a billionaire. Come on, Mr. Davis.
Yeah.
Do something for these fans.
And there's probably 15 or 20 guys or
we're not talking about 500
fans.
people here. We're talking about a dozen, 2 dozen.
Yeah, I mean,
Come on, man.
It wouldn't cost a ton of money, I think, and there's still a lot of time. I mean, honestly, Brian, they can't even sell any merchandise until March 20th of 2020. I mean, they're a long ways from being able to do that. So I think that once that happens, maybe in April, maybe June, I think they'll reach out and they'll have a conversation, and we'll see Violator and all those other fans in Vegas.
By the way, for the record, I do disagree with them. I don't think Derek Carr is the guy. Derek Carr is not an elite quarterback. And in this day and age in the NFL, you have to be an elite quarterback to make it to a Super Bowl.
I'm going to push back on that. I think that if you have the team around you is Tom Brady an elite quarterback right now?
Yeah.
No,
right,
he's not. No,
right.
he's not. The last 5 years,
I'll take him over Carr right now.
Carr has no weapons. He had Tyrell Williams and Hunter Renfrow who went out.
I don't
care.
He
has Darren Waller, an undrafted free agent.
Give me the
tight
Baltimore.
End.
Let's just say you have the
I'm
ball.
just saying,
Hold on a second.
If Carr had a major weapon, like if Carr had Antonio Brown,
let me ask you a question.
It would be a totally different conversation.
Let me ask you a question.
He just hasn't had the horses around him.
Let's just
to
say
be successful.
Derek Carr has the Baltimore Ravens and Tom Brady has the Baltimore Ravens. You're telling me in the playoffs you would rather have Derek Carr as your starting quarterback than Tom Brady? A guy who's been there before, who's won multiple championships, who's going to go down as one of the best, if not the best quarterback of all time.
That's a different style team. That's more of a running
You
offense.
understand
Derek Carr needs big physical wide receivers, and he needs one fast guy because he's very
inconsistent.
He's accurate. No, he doesn't have a strong lower body, so he gets injured a lot. And I'm not saying he's necessarily the guy, but in this situation, he just hasn't had the talent around him to be successful.
2-minute drive in the Super Bowl.
Opinion.
Who would you rather have with the football, Carr or Tom Brady?
Which team?
Let's just talk about an elite team, a top 5 team. Who would you rather have in a 2-minute drive, Carr or Brady? To me, it's not even a question.
Again, it all depends on what the team looks like.
You can't answer that question and tell me Tom Brady.
I've watched. I'm saying right now, Tom Brady this year has not impressed me at all.
Tom Brady doesn't have the team he's had in years past. He doesn't have the defense. He doesn't have the receivers.
My point exactly.
Brady is a better quarterback now than Carr. How are you going to deny that?
I'm just saying he's not elite. He's not an elite quarterback right now. Tom Brady is not an elite quarterback.
He's not one of the He's not one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the league. Obviously,
he's probably not even top 15
based on his age. But I would still take Brady based on his experience now over Carr.
Yes, I mean, is Tom Brady? I mean, his overall body of work, is he the greatest quarterback of all time?
What's the biggest game Carr has won in his entire career?
Course. Obviously, Carr is not as good as Tom Brady is, but Tom Brady is not elite. But I'm just saying, I think if Carr had other weapons, had more weapons, he would be much more consistent as a quarterback. My problem with Carr is that he's only 6'2", 220. He has he has a thin lower body. He can't take those big hits. He gets injured a lot, and he's got a giant contract.
He does have a pretty big contract. I don't have a lot of faith in the Raiders making the playoffs next year. Maybe I'm wrong in that way of thinking.
I would say you're probably wrong in that way of thinking, actually.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, they bring back a lot of talent. They've got 2 top 20 picks. They're going to get some talent. They're going to get free agents, obviously. Free agents are going to want to come to Las Vegas.
Well, I don't think that's a question.
Yeah, exactly. So the team's going to get better. Mike Mayock, I would say, is a top 3 at worst GM as far as adding talent and drafting talent. So they're going to be good.
All right. Fair enough. All right. Well, I have a feeling we're going to be talking about Raiders in the future.
I hope so.
This conversation
I'm excited.
Yes, I'm excited too. But I'm also excited about our next guest because I always have to stare at all the men in the studio. It's nice to have a female in studio once in a while. And the woman we have coming in right now in just a few minutes here, she works for Wager Talk. She is a professional sports handicapper. She is very good at what she does. And this is an industry where more women are getting involved in this. I think this is a great thing. And what has predominantly been in the past, all men, right, being professional sports handicappers. Well, it's changing a little bit. MintyBets will be joining us next on the Vegas Take-In studio. We'll take a quick break, be back right after this with some pretty good picks, hopefully, as well. You are listening to the Vegas Take.
This is Harry Jacobs from Credit Restoration of Nevada, inviting you to join me for the Credit Show, Saturday mornings between 9 and 10, here on the new 101.5 FM and 720 AM, KDON.
Hi, Doug Basham here. Join me Saturday afternoons from 2 to 4, and I'll tell you what your conservative, corporate-controlled, right-wing propaganda hate media isn't. You're welcome. That's Saturday afternoons, 2 to 4. Be there.
If you own a business and want to bring attention to it, there's no better way than wrapping your vehicles. While you or your employees are driving around Vegas, let your vehicles scream about your products or services. Share with everyone on the road why you're so special, with a single vehicle wrap getting anywhere from 30,000 to 80,000 views per day, according to the Outdoor Advertising Association of America. Turn your vehicles into an amazing, spectacular moving billboard. Let Intershine Graphics show you how with the best wrap in the business. Go to IntershineGraphics.com. IntershineGraphics.com.
This is John Greenhut, and if your teeth are stained from coffee, tea, or smoking, Power Swabs is the answer. In 5 minutes, you'll see 2 shades whiter teeth, and in 7 days, 6 shades. Even better, there's no messy strips or trays that you'll have to leave in your mouth for an hour. Just swab your teeth for 5 minutes, and you're done. To try Power Swabs, call 1-800-679-0969. Your bright white smile will have your friends talking about how great you look. Try it risk-free. 1-800-679-0969. That's 1-800-679-0969.
SportsX Radio Nation, what's up? It's Ken Thompson, host of SportsX Radio, reminding you to catch me at my new time, 8 to 10 p.m. for all the local Vegas sports coverage, plus the national scene as well. That's SportsX Radio on the new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN.
There are lots of ways to be a kid. My way is to take a road that's not easy. So it's a good thing I'm an adventurer. That's why I'm going to be a Cub Scout, because scouting will guide me to really big things. So scout me in.
Okay, men, time to be an all-star caregiver. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Be there emotionally and physically. Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find care guides at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Trooper Chelsea Stunkel with the Nevada Highway Patrol, reminding drivers that with the recent legalization of recreational use of marijuana, it is still a form of impairment when you get behind the wheel. So please don't drive impaired. If you drive high, you will get a DUI.
If you have room in your home to care for a homeless pet, the Animal Foundation needs your help now. Summer's almost here and the shelter is filling up fast. By becoming a foster parent for as little as a few weeks, you can help save the life of an animal waiting for their forever home. To learn more, visit animalfoundation.com or call 702-384-3333, extension 958.
Las Vegas's only FM news talk station is right here. The new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
Tear gas and stun grenades on anti-American demonstrators trying to force their way into the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. The State Department says everyone inside is safe. Iran denies President Trump's assertion that Tehran is behind the violence. The Marine Corps says a suspect in a Hanukkah stabbing attack was kicked out of boot camp for what they term fraudulent enlistment. As Bryn Gingras reports, investigators say he also conducted searches on his cell phone for anti-Semitic content.
One was the day of this attack where he allegedly searched an inquiry about a uptick in police presence at Jewish synagogues in New York City.
The new year is pushing its way around the planet.
3, 2, 1, Happy New Year!
Sydney, Australia, given a waiver for fireworks despite the devastating bushfires. I'm Jan Johnson.
It's time to check the roads in the KDON Traffic Center.
This report sponsored by the Exergen Temporal Scanner Thermometer. Volume building up, and there's some light slowing again now on I-15 southbound between Sahara and Flamingo. And light slowing on 15 northbound between Russell Road and Spring Mountain. Watch for the brake lights. Also, police activity is reported on Blue Diamond westbound at Jones Boulevard. And a traffic hazard reported Summerlin Parkway westbound at Buffalo, just approaching Buffalo. Is your family ready for cold and flu season? The flu brings a fever, so be prepared with a thermometer you can trust. The Exergen Temporal Scanner, backed by more than 80 clinical studies. Visit exergen.com. John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
Is your family ready for cold and flu season? The flu brings a fever, so be prepared with a thermometer you can trust. The Exergen Temporal Scanner, backed by more than 80 clinical studies. Visit Exergen.com.
I'm Jim Snyder.
And I'm Marie Mortera. We want to thank you for making News 3 your #1 choice for news.
Every weeknight at 11, you can count on us to have the big story of the day.
Plus breaking news that matters to you.
Jim Snyder and Marie Mortera. News 3 live at 11.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit beefy, or even with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Affordable term life insurance is out there. Call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-481-1458. 800-481-1458 or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they're the right hire. And we give you this magic music, which will inspire the perfect hire to begin clog dancing. Okay, there's no magic music, but skills tests, that's a for sure.
See why independent research by Silk Road shows Indeed delivers 3 times more hires than any other job site. Post your next job at Indeed.com/hire and try skills tests for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM. KDON.
Because I'm going to be working for you. I'm not going to have time to go play golf.
Well, we know that's not true, right? I mean, Donald Trump, that's all he does is play golf. Anyway, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Wow, this is our last segment in 2019. I can't believe it. Wow, it's unbelievable. I'm getting older. The world is getting older. We're all getting older here. But anyway, glad to be back here. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. We talk a lot about sports gambling here on this show. We talk about it a lot, not just because it's Las Vegas and sports
but
gambling.
We don't talk about it enough.
Well, we could talk about it more, but sports gambling is eventually it's going to be legalized throughout the country. We all know that, and we're working on that now. But as far as sports handicapping goes, and people that are around gambling, sports gambling, it's always been dominated, I guess you could say, by men. But as I've noticed over the course, particularly over the last several years or so, there are more women that are getting involved in this. And I think that is a good thing. I don't care what your gender is. If you're good at what you do, all the power to you, right? And we've talked to some people within the business, both men and women, that do this for a living. So the reason why I say that is the female we have in studio with us right now. Her name is MintyBets, and she works for Wager Talk, and she does a great job in covering, especially the NFL and sports gambling in general. Minty, it's nice to look at you in the studio, not have to look at JD. It's a nice change of pace for me. Anyway, thanks for being here. How you doing?
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Okay, so give me a little bit of your background. My understanding is that you grew up here in Las Vegas. I don't talk to a lot of people that have spent their entire lives here. Although I've been here 20 years, you could argue that that's a lifetime. JD's only been here a few years, but I love this town. So what is it like being here your whole life, growing up here?
Yeah, well, 20 years is almost my lifetime. I'm 26 now. And
God, I sound so old. Jeez.
I was born and raised here. I've lived on the same side of town my whole life. I love it here. Growing up, I didn't like it here because there wasn't a lot to do. But now that I'm over 21, I can gamble, I can drink, I can do whatever. I love it, and I love what I do. I'm a sports bettor, and not a lot of women do this. And you know what? Not a lot of guys can say that they do this for a living. So I'm really lucky that I get to do this.
Why is it you think that there are not more women like yourself that bet on sports? What is the reason?
Because they
for
don't
that?
like to watch sports.
You think that's probably the reason?
I think so.
Because a lot of women like gamble.
Yeah.
Right? If you go into a casino, there are a lot of female poker players now these days.
Yes.
Blackjack, but you're right. Maybe it's because the majority of women don't enjoy watching sports. What makes you different?
I don't know. I enjoy watching sports. I think football is the funnest for me to watch, and hockey and baseball. I don't know why I like it. I mean, I grew up watching it with my dad, so maybe that's why. So yeah, I just enjoy the sport. And when I turned 21, I knew that I wanted to try to gamble in sports, and I thought that was the funnest way to make money, other than like blackjack or poker or craps.
Well, you definitely took a big gamble coming on this show, so we appreciate that. Hopefully it'll pay off. Anyway,
very, very risky.
But, okay, so Minty, what made you decide though? Because there's a difference between being a sports fan and watching sports, and then being a professional sports bettor. So what clicked in your head that made you say, you know what? I think I'm pretty good at this. Maybe I should start betting on sports. Like, what made that change for you?
Okay, so the difference between a sports fan and a sports bettor, of course, a fan is going to be like, yeah, my team is the Bills, and the Bills are going to win every single game.
Right.
But as a sports gambler, you can't let your heart decide who's going to win the game. You need to study the numbers and see the stats and the analytics of the game and see, okay, yeah, they might win, but are they going to win by a touchdown? Are they going to win by a field goal? Like it's so different. And when I first got into it, I didn't understand any of it, like the plus money and all that stuff. I didn't understand that. So I had to learn myself by making my own mistakes gambling myself.
So as I'm sure you've had to deal with this for much of your, men can be very chauvinistic, as you know. They can be pigs, they can be a-holes, they can be jerks. So when they see somebody like you, obviously a very attractive woman, and they see somebody like you giving sports picks, do you get a lot of those men who are chauvinistic that say, oh, what does she know about sports? You know, she's a girl. I'm not going to take professional sports picks from a girl. Meanwhile, these are probably the same guys that are losing their rent money. I mean, like, what do you get a lot of that? And that's got to be a little frustrating, right?
Yes, I actually get more support and men who are really, really nice to me about my picks, even though it would be a sucky pick. They'd be like, good job, best of luck. Every so often I will get those men that are like, yeah, I'm not going to listen to you. You probably have like a sugar daddy who's behind the scenes, who's giving you these picks, and you're just scripted. And it's like, it sucks, you know. I can't really do anything or prove myself to them. So if I win, I lose, and if I lose, I lose. So
yeah, well, that's unfortunate that there are idiots out there that treat you that way, because I think you should be treated on your knowledge and your picks, not whether you're a female or a male. So what do you make of an idiot like Vegas Dave, right? Because Vegas Dave appeared on my show when I was at a different station. I didn't know JD years back. And after interviewing him a few times, I realized that this guy's a complete fraud. He's a moron. His family has all this money. And if you don't know who Vegas Dave is, he's this guy on social media who says he gives these whale plays. He bankrupts all of his clients. That's a fact. But yet people still buy his picks because he throws all this money around, and his family is extremely wealthy. And JD is a professional handicapper as well. And we've had this conversation before. That has to bother people like you, because it gives people like you or I shouldn't say specifically people like you, but it gives the business a bad name when you have so many liars out there, which I think at times can be a scummy industry, because there's a lot of Vegas Daves out there that lie, right?
Right, absolutely. So I obviously personally don't know Vegas Dave, but I do know the gist of what he does.
He's
and he's great in marketing, and that's why
he's
he
good
gets
at that.
so much
He's
business.
a brilliant marketer. Yeah.
He is a marketing genius, and that's how he gets people to buy his plays and whatnot. But it's horrible bankroll management, the 300 units, the 5,000 units, whale plays. Yeah, it is ridiculous. It gives sports bettors who sell their picks a bad name, which I don't sell my picks, but I work for a company who does have handicappers who sell their picks. So yeah, it does give those handicappers a bad name.
The first time he came on my show years ago, I just want to say this real quickly. The first time he came on my show, I said, "What's your record in Major League Baseball?" He says, "I'm 78-1." So obviously, I know he's absolutely.
Well, and you know what he means by that is that
full of crap.
When he wins a game, when he wins a game, he stops. When he loses a game, he doubles down.
Yeah.
And then if he loses again, he doubles down again.
So
if he
true
loses
story.
Again, he doubles down again. And he's saying, well, I haven't lost 4 double downs in a row in 179 plays, so I'm 178-1.
So I called him out for it on the air. I said, well, wait a second, you're just using the martingale system. And then we get off the air and he says, Brian, please don't mention that on the air ever again. And when he said that to me, I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have this guy on my show.
And he was paying you good money for that.
He was actually paying. He sponsored my show, but you have to have some standards.
It's actually really bad. He just got engaged to, I believe, a sports reporter. Her name is Holly Saunders.
Over under 3.5 months.
I mean, you see him. You see him next to Rihanna. You see him next to a lot of celebrities at like Lakers games. I mean, this guy he is creating a big black eye for the sports betting industry.
Who, by the way, Holly Saunders used to date Cliff Kingsbury, and I don't know how she shifted from him to Vegas Dave.
Well, here's a story about Vegas Dave.
He's about a foot shorter, I would say.
So at the time, Vegas Dave, not a lot of people. I've never told this story on the air. At the time, Vegas Dave was sponsoring my show, and I was ready to cut it off. I was in contact with his girlfriend at the time. I won't say her name. They fly to another country, and I'm trying to contact him because he's supposed to be doing my show that week. Mm-hmm. And she sends me a message, and she tells me that they got into this big argument, that he took her passport and he left her in another country. What type of douchebag does that to a woman? I don't care what type of argument it was. That's the kind of person this guy is.
I remember seeing that on social media, and I remember seeing that on his Instagram, and he said that too. And I was like, that is crazy. Like, no matter how big of a fight it is, you don't take someone's passport and leave them in another country.
And by the way, it's horrible. And by the way,
character.
the idea that he's kicked out of these sports books because he's just killing them, no. That's not why. There are other reasons why he's not allowed in some of these. He's barred from these casinos, and they're not reasons to brag about, by the way, number one. Number two, when he posted, when the Kansas City Royals won the World Series, and I guess he made a big 6-figure bet on them, or was it a 7-figure bet? I don't even remember. What the guy does is he bets on the top 6 or 7 teams every year. He loses probably $500,000, and then he brags when he shows his winner. The guy's a fraud.
No, that was an impressive win. I'll give him credit for that. He has some impressive
It's
futures.
not impressive if you bet on
but
5 or 6 teams.
You do need to show your losers. Like, for example, I have a major future with LSU at 60-1, but I also have 2 on Oklahoma, a couple on Oregon. I've probably got 4 or 5 grand out in futures, but my upside is strong. And the problem is Vegas, Dave, he doesn't show his losers. He only shows and markets his winners, but so does Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
Right. You have to be transparent about your losses. And I remember when I first started my gambling Twitter account, I would post some MLB plays and then they would all lose, and I would delete a tweet and then someone called me out on it, and I never did it ever again. Even if it loses, I will still show my face and accept it.
Because and that's good, because in this day and age, I think you need to be honest. I think you need to post all of your plays. Professional sports handicappers have bad years, have bad months, just like a professional poker player could go through a stretch where they might lose 6 or 7 sessions and then they might win 10 sessions in a row. You're not going to win every play, and I can't stand when these idiots say that they have a lock game of the day. There's no such thing as a lock.
I've never used the term lock before.
Me
Never used the
neither.
term whale before, because there's so much variance that takes place, especially in a sport like football where an injury could happen, a pick six. Now in baseball, which is my personal best sport, because you have catchers, you have pitchers. I mean, they're all they're relatively consistent. Now you could have like a situation where a Kershaw, his back is hurting him, and maybe it's towards August or towards September, and he's not going to pitch as well as he does because he's a little older and he's got that double hitch stance, or he's got the double hitch delivery. But using the term lock or whale, again, it just makes the handicapping business look bad, because you may win one. But once you win that big whale player or that lock, so to speak, that 10-star play, big game, Bob, and I've got this 10-star play. Like, you're gonna expect to make that money on a consistent basis, and you're gonna make that bet a couple more times, and you're not gonna win it.
All right, I have to ask you this, Minty. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to. But what is the most money you've ever bet on a game?
I personally don't like to talk about how much I bet on, because
10,000.
No,
okay.
because people will always be like, oh, well, if she bets this much, then she's not a real bettor, or if she bets this much, that's just stupid. Then she lost this much money on a game. So I think it's kind of irrelevant to talk about how much you bet on, rather than maybe units, like 1 to 5 units. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. I was just curious. That's all. Are you a miserable person like I am to sit next to when I have action on a game? I'm miserable.
Oh.
I'm swearing at the TV. I'm throwing stuff around. I am just awful, and JD, I think, can attest to this. I'm awful to sit next to when I have action on a game.
I certainly can.
Yes, absolutely. At home, I'm awful, but when I'm at the sports books or anything, or the bar, I'm
You're more mellow.
cordial. Yeah.
Fair enough.
I'm okay.
Fair enough.
Do you think that Twitter has allowed people like Vegas, Dave, and other, we'll call them scammer handicappers?
Scam artists, yeah.
Do you think that Twitter has actually enabled them to do what they do and make money?
Yes.
I think so too.
Absolutely. Gambling Twitter, I should say, is a very, very dirty place to be. There's so many scams that happen. I get so many messages that are like, hey, can you log into my sports account here for Caesars and place a bet for me? And everyone's always asking for money and donations and tips and stuff like that. And I just don't really get it.
Donations?
Yeah.
So we had a state senator, Keith Picard, came on our show. And there was going to be a law that was proposed to come into effect in the state of Nevada that forces professional sports handicappers to register with the state like a stockbroker. I think that's a good idea. Do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I mean, I haven't actually heard much of that, but I'll actually have to look into that.
Right. I think that would take the scammers out of the equation, because
I agree,
all of your results would be totally transparent, as you suggested earlier, and you could never just falsify records or success.
No question.
Well, I mean, maybe you could, but
it
would be difficult.
It'd make it harder. Yeah. If you're just joining us, we're speaking with professional sports handicapper MintyBets from Wager Talk, in usually an occupation that has been dominated years by men. It's a breath of fresh air to see that there are women in the industry that are successful. So I guess my next question for you, let's talk a little football, right? I mean, we got some pretty big football games coming up this weekend. We were having a conversation off the air the other day about Tom Brady. I personally believe that Tom Brady is going to retire at the end of the year. I think he's done. I don't think he wants to go through a real rebuilding process at his age. I think this is it. Do you agree with that? And do you think that we could be witnessing arguably the best quarterback in the history of the NFL, or one of the best, his last game on Saturday?
Yes, I do agree that it's time for Tom Brady to retire. But do I agree that it might be his last game? I don't know. I think he has another season in him, even though I think that he should retire at the end of this game or season or whatever he's going to play.
So they're matched up against Tennessee, and I've talked to JD a little bit about this. And Tennessee is no pushover. They're a good football team.
They are.
When I looked at this line open up at 5.5, I said to myself, "Whoa." It's almost like they are tempting everybody to take New England. And maybe I am one of the suckers. I did not take the spread. I took the money line because I find it hard to believe that they haven't been in a game like this in 10 years, right? They've always gotten the bye. I find it hard to believe that at Gillette, that Tom Brady is going to lose in this quote-unquote playing game. I'm not saying they're going to cover. I'm saying I expect them to win. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I guess. Mostly I feel that they'll win, but I actually took Tennessee to cover the 5.5. So I really like Tennessee here. I think that the Patriots, they're not what they used to be. Their defense, statistically, they are good on paper, but those are against teams with losing records. Who have they played? The Redskins, the Giants, the Jets, the Browns.
The Browns, yeah.
Yeah, the Bengals. Like
the Steelers without Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, in their last 5 games, their defense has allowed an average of 21 points per game, and that's a lot. So
one of those teams was the Dolphins.
Yeah.
But it's still so hard for me to bet against arguably the best quarterback in the history of the game and the best coach.
Well, let's do the math here, man. I mean, you've got 18 states that have legalized sports betting. Tom Brady has won 6 Super Bowl rings. He rarely has he ever played a wild card game at Gillette?
Not that I can recall.
I don't think he
By
has.
the way, most of the public is on your side because the line opened up, I think, at around 6, 5.5. Now it's down to 5. People are betting hard Tennessee. And again, I am not saying that
spread Tennessee does not matter. It's all about money line Patriots.
I understand. I'm not saying, and clearly that's not happening. I'm not saying that the Patriots are going to cover the spread.
Right.
I just think they're going to win.
Yeah.
And, that's all. I mean, I expect this to be a close game.
Yeah,
I really do.
I totally agree. I think it's going to be a close game as well. I think Mike Vrabel, he's very familiar with the Patriots, so I think he has a couple tricks up his sleeve, and it's going to be a close game.
Bills-Texans, let's go there. And this is usually not something we do on this show, but we've been doing it the last few days because of that. Things are heating up in the NFL.
Yes.
Texans were favored by 3. Now they're 2.5. Now, I said yesterday on the show, the one upset this coming weekend, I like the Bills. And I know I actually think the Bills win this game outright. And obviously the public is agreeing with me because when I said it yesterday, it was 3. Now it's down to 2.5. I think the Bills win. What do you guys say this game?
I like the Bills.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, I lean Texans in this game for a couple of reasons.
You can't trust Bill O'Brien.
I know.
You can't trust the Texans.
I don't love the Bills offense. I think they're fine. Actually, I like what the Texans have done at cornerback by adding Hargraves, by adding Garyon Conley. I think J.J. Watt is going to try to play in this game. If I'm correct, that's very important. And I don't. I mean, the Bills they do have Tre'Davious White. They've got a very good secondary. But I like the Texans' weapons at wide receiver, and I prefer Deshaun Watson to Josh Allen. So I would actually lean Texans in this game. But I would probably take it if it's only -2. Then I'd probably take the -135 or -140 money line.
The money line. Okay, let's move on to the 2 games that are on Sunday. We got a couple good ones. I think the most entertaining game of the weekend could be the Vikings and the Saints. I do expect a lot of points in this game, and I actually like the over. I liked it when it opened up at 47.5. It's now up at 49, so I'm not so sure about that. But boy, the way the Saints have been playing, the way Drew Brees has been playing, how could you not take the Saints in this game? I don't see how Minnesota has a chance to win this game outright. As far as the spread goes, 9 is a lot in a playoff game.
It is a lot. I don't know if I'll be betting it for the points, but I do like the Saints here. They're a better team. They've got a top 10 defense, top 3 scoring offense, and arguably one of the best quarterback wide receiver duos in the league right now. So I definitely like this.
Oh yeah, I would say the best wide receiver quarterback duo with Michael Thomas breaking every single wide receiver record, and then Drew Brees having that insane 29 of 30 game with I think 5 touchdowns 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Yeah, he's incredible at his age.
Zimmer is a really, really good coach, especially defensively. The fact that they rested Cousins and a lot of those players last week for a road game when they knew it was a road game makes me think that they believe they can win the game. Is Dalvin Cook playing or not?
I don't think so.
Because if Cook isn't playing, and I mean, Mike Boone's fine. He's okay, but he's certainly not Cook. He's not even Alexander Madison. I think the Vikings can cover this spread. I don't think they win the game.
All right, well, let's go to the last game of this weekend in the NFL, and that would be the Seahawks and the Eagles. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Seahawks opened at -1. Now they're up to -2.
Right.
I just don't trust the Eagles. They have been very inconsistent all year. Not to say the Seahawks have been consistent either, but I got to say, man, Seahawks, to me, this is the team that should win this football game, even though it is in Philadelphia, and I understand that does play a role. If this game was in Seattle, I think Seattle would be favored by a touchdown. I really do.
You know, Seattle's been great on the road. I think they're 7-1
They are
on the
very
road
good.
this
Yep.
season, and
Yep.
like 5-2 against the spread. I really like Seattle, although both teams are really banged up. I don't trust the Eagles, like you said. I don't think the Eagles are anything special this season. I like Seattle here, but I don't know if I'll be betting it. They're just so banged up on both sides. I can't.
It's the type of game I can't really bet either. I look at the points. I think there's probably going to be a lot of points scored in this game. Wentz has found a way to score a lot. This Boston Scott kid who just started playing for the Eagles, he had 3 touchdowns. Yeah, he had 3 touchdowns against the Giants, as well as 84 yards receiving. Wentz is going to find a way to score points, but so is Russell Wilson. The Eagles defense hasn't been great, especially in their secondary. I would lean over here.
All right, so let's go to who we think is going to win the whole thing. And I'm not going with the chalk here. I'm not betting Baltimore. I've been saying all year that I think the Chiefs are going to get over the hump. I think Holmgren is going to get over the hump. I think Mahomes is a superstar. Well, not think. He is a superstar.
Andy Reid.
I'm sorry, did I say Holmgren?
You did.
I apologize. I don't know why I get them confused. You know, Holmgren was the former Hartford Whalers head hockey coach, so maybe I get him confused with football. Andy Reid, I apologize. I think Andy Reid is going to finally get over the hump and I think win a Super Bowl. And I don't know. I don't think this team has many weaknesses. It's just my opinion. Pat Mahomes appears to be healthy. We all know how good he is. I think if the Patriots get through, I think the Chiefs beat the Patriots. I think they move on to the Super Bowl. I like the Chiefs. Maybe I'm crazy here, but I think the Chiefs win it all. What do you guys think about that?
I like the Chiefs, but I actually have San Francisco to win it all.
That's because you're just a big Garoppolo fan, are you not? Be honest, how many Garoppolo posters do you have?
I don't have any Garoppolo posters. I think he's a great quarterback. I think the team, it's a very complete team on both sides of the ball. I mean, defense has kind of tumbled downhill a little bit. They can fix that. I like the Niners to win it.
But
JD,
she is a George Kittle fan.
JD, have you? Okay, so
Everybody's a George Kittle fan.
I'll tell you
How could you not
I'm
be?
going to tell you my story here.
I'm
I'm at a Vegas Golden Knights game. We're in a suite. And I have a couple friends that were with me that could. I'm sitting right next to him and Garoppolo. And they were just jerks. They were just jerks.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, I'm not being a fanboy. I wasn't asking for an autograph. I wasn't asking for a picture. They just didn't want to talk to anybody. They just wanted to sit there and eat their popcorn and root on there. I think they were playing Nashville.
That's what I do at a party.
Does that make them jerks?
Yeah. Does that make them jerks?
Well, we were being nice to them. It's not like they were surrounded by people asking for pictures and autographs.
You didn't get the attention that you felt you deserved, Brian.
No,
which is fine. I understand that.
You guys, said, hey, what do you guys think of the stadium? What do you think? Just regular talk. And my friends asked Garoppolo for a picture. No, bro, I'm not doing pictures today. It's like, dude, there's just like 3 people here, bro. Don't be an a-hole. I'm sorry. They're jerk.
Oh.
But you know what, Garoppolo? Have you talked to one woman who does not find Garoppolo attractive? One.
It's never been a conversation I've had with a woman before.
I don't think he asks random women that.
No.
I do all the time. I just go on the strip and I ask people, hey, what do you think about Garoppolo? Would you sleep with him? No, I don't do that. But no, but seriously.
With a foghorn.
Maybe I'm just a little jealous. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe
it was just an off day. Like maybe his cat died or something earlier that day.
Or maybe he took 1,000 pictures the day before.
Yeah.
And he was in Las Vegas enjoying himself.
I guess so. He gets comp tickets. You're in a suite. There's not a lot of people.
But how did you
take
get
a frickin'
how did
picture.
you get his Old Navy?
Oh yeah, that's a funny story. That I stole one
hoodie.
of his shirts. Yeah,
Stop it.
I did. His sweatshirt. He left it on the chair and he left, and I took it with me. Yeah, I took.
He
his
took
shirt.
it and he gave it to me.
To you? Why?
And he said this is Jimmy Garoppolo, and it was Old
We
Navy.
should give it to her.
It was like a $15. I mean, it wasn't expensive.
He was wearing a hoodie. He left it on the chair next to me. He was a jerk. I was pissed off. He left. I did not return it to Lost and Found. And I said to my friend Jose, I said, I am going to take this sweatshirt. I have Garoppolo's sweatshirt. He's a jerk. He should have taken a picture with you. I'm taking.
And he's going to feel that because he only signed a $99 million contract.
All right.
Oh,
well,
okay.
He's going to feel that $15.
So we only have about a minute here to go. And by the way, Minty, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks a lot.
I really
Of course,
appreciate
thanks
it.
for having me.
Sure. I want you to give out your social media and all that stuff. So
Oh,
how do
yeah.
people follow you?
You guys can follow me on Twitter at MintyBets. There's no spaces, no underscores. It's just MINTY Bets, BETS. Also, I take over the Wager Talk Instagram, so you guys can follow the Instagram, and I'll post videos daily of my picks and promotions that we're having at Wager Talk on Instagram.
Well, you're very good at what you do. One day you'll probably steal my job. That would not surprise me. But you know what? I wouldn't say that about everybody because, JD, as you know, there's some people in this town that cover sports and call themselves sports handicappers that are not very good at what they do. You are really good at what you do, and we hope we can see more of you here. So thank you so much for joining us. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Of course, Happy New Year's, guys.
Yes,
thanks a lot.
Happy New Year, and we will see if our picks are correct.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. Man, 2019 in the books, man. So we're taking tomorrow off. We're going to be playing the best of, and we will be back live on Thursday. So please join us on Thursday. Mike Babcock from TMZ Sports will be here. We will have some very special guests lined up for you on Thursday. And our producer, Stein, will be back. He's been on vacation, it feels like, for 3 weeks. That idiot is going to be back here. So we get our producer back. That'll take a little bit of pressure off me. I hope everybody has a fantastic New Year's Eve. Have a great New Year's. Please be safe out there. Do not drink and drive, okay? Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. We really do appreciate it. The legend himself, Sean Hannity, is coming up next, everybody. Have a great day.
Moose is the German Shepherd and hasn't had any kind of health problems at all. He has been on Dinovite since he's a puppy. DINOVITE.com. We tell anybody that has a dog, if there was something that you could do right from the beginning so that you don't have expensive veterinary bills, why would you not do it? Get the Dinovite.
Dinovite for life.
You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
DINOVITE.com.
Hey, check out this report of our Office 365